Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Super Game Brothers Weekly Podcast. This is episode number 22. We're almost at a full 6 months, which is crazy. This is a podcast all about video games and board games, especially the ones that we, the two hosts, have been playing in the recent past. My name is David, and I'm joined, like always, by my brother Devin with his cool Twitch neon light in the background. Twitcher Player 4, but we call him Devin on the podcast. How are you, Twitcher?
We sure do. Mr. Twitcher's doing well. I'm very dirty right now. I worked all day and then I mowed the lawn. And Dad, he likes to bag the yard. I will admit it looks better when you bag it.
Yep.
But man, that gets grass all over the place.
What part of bagging gets it more messy? From my experience, and it's probably just because I haven't been great at mowing it like every couple of days, whenever I mulch, it seems to make more of a mess just because there's grass flying everywhere.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe my shoes didn't get as dirty. I don't know. I guess just shaking the bag.
So like more on your shirt and your upper body is what you're thinking from the transfer of the pile from the bag. Like the lawn mowing bag to the trash bag?
Yeah,
is that what you're thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I feel really dirty sense. Right now from that, but
yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have to do the whole yard. It was just a section, just to help out. But that's what I've been doing.
Cool. That's hardcore. Us Americans, we like our green backyard carpet that has to be cut, which is not as much of a thing in other countries in the world, but we do like it in America. You know,
I try to minimize my tasks.
Yeah.
And if I ever own a home, I will not have grass. Somehow, some way, I will not. It's just.
Yeah, I would be okay without it too, especially in the front yard, because we don't really do much out there. But the backyard where we have a fence and the kids like to play, it's nice to have grass back there. But I totally agree, especially with the front yard. Like, what am I mowing this every week for? We don't even use this stupid thing.
Yeah, it's just let's satisfy the neighbors. Make sure they think our yard looks good. We're not gonna walk on it, but at least it'll look cool.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just get some turf in the front yard, and I'll do it the same blue as that college football team. I think it's Idaho State that has the blue.
Oh
field.
Yeah, blue and orange.
Yeah. That'll make the neighbors happy.
That'd be sick.
Well, that's cool. Did you also do we've talked about this forever ago, the weed eating, the string trimming, or was it just a mow today?
No, I noticed Dad was out there mowing, so I walked out and I just said, "Hey, are you going to edge the yard today?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll just handle this part." So I just stole the mower and he did all the edging.
Let him do that. Yeah. I do like mowing better. I think the edger, you have to hold it kind of awkwardly to get it wherever you want. By the end, my shoulder's like, you're an old man. Don't try this anymore. But mowing, especially my mower, you just push the go button and then just walk behind it, which is handy. So yeah, I kind of like mowing the lawn. My friend, he has one of those cool Roomba lawn mowers. You basically has a dock in your backyard, and then you set it to go at midnight, and it cuts the lawn in diagonal patterns or whatever pattern you set. That does sound pretty nice.
That's crazy.
But with a dog, that also doesn't sound very nice, because I imagine the feces that would end up in that device would not be fun to clean up. I don't know. I'm just thinking about this in real time, having never thought about it before. So maybe I don't want one of those.
Well, maybe I'd go over your dog and cut him into diagonal patterns too.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we could lay him out there, and that could be how we cut his hair, and I wouldn't have to deal with that.
Yeah. That'd work.
Yeah, two birds, one lawnmower. Cool, love it. Well, anything else new going on with you, Devin? I heard you have been doing some more longboarding recently.
Yeah. A lot of longboarding, a lot of night longboarding. Weird
Scary.
experiences this last week longboarding. We went super late one night, and I was like, hey, let's sit on this bench and play Clash Royale. So we sit on this bench, and we're like behind neighborhoods. And I was like, we're going to play one round of Clash Royale, and then we'll just continue. And we're like 3 minutes through the match, and I look up, and there's just a guy standing there with the flashlight just staring at us. I was like,
and what time was it?
It was like 12:15 or something. Like, oh my gosh. And he's as scared as I am. He's like, oh shoot. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. We probably scared you. He's like, oh no, I saw you from a ways away. I'm thinking, why did you walk up to us then? You don't know who we are. That's very weird. And then he got like super concerned, and I was petting his dog, and he was like, yeah, my dog typically doesn't like to go out this late. I was like, okay, goodbye. And then we just left. It was a weird experience. The next day, we took a car down and then drove back up, and then we're longboarding, and we finished the ride. It was fun. And we're on our way back, and we got pulled over. And I was like, oh, what the heck? I was like, we didn't even do anything. But being pulled over is a weird experience. You like always feel guilty of something, even though you're not. You're just like, oh shoot,
right?
Maybe it was.
So you were in the car at this point. He didn't pull up next to your longboards. Oh, okay,
correct. And he's like, you know why I pulled you over? One of your license plate lights is out, and you signaled
license plate light.
Yeah,
like the one above the license plate.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, he's digging. He's digging. He goes, also, you signaled a little late on that turn, I noticed. Like, okay. So he's asking for the insurance. And we're not even I'm with my cousin. We're not even in his car. He's borrowing a car from his dad while his is getting fixed.
Oh, boy.
So there's no insurance in there. Nothing in there. I was like, there's nothing in here. He's like, oh, well, we can't look that up. He's like, you guys just wait here for a second. I'm like, oh, shoot. Oh, no. So he comes back. All of a sudden, he's knocking on my window. I was like, oh, what do you want? So I roll down my window. He's like, I like to come over to this side just in case you're hiding something. I was like, okay. I was like, I understand. I was like, I would be doing the same thing. You never know what people are doing. I thought he's thinking we had like a gun or something. He's like, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm just out here looking for DUIs and drugs. You've been drinking tonight? Have you been doing any meth? That's what he said. I was like, no and no. And basically it just like, he could tell there was just nothing wrong and he was just digging for nothing and then just let us go. But I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I am. Maybe I did do it. I don't know. Take me in. I was like, why is my heart rate so high? Being pulled over is a weird thing, man. But
it is.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's stressful. Even like in that situation where really nothing was done wrong, you still feel like you did something wrong or like you're going to prison. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, man, he's going to take me out of this car. He wants to know my name. I don't know. He ended up being super chill and was just like, whatever. But yeah, 2 funny experiences longboarding. I don't know if I want to do that in the evening anymore. It gets weird out there.
Yeah, you hoodlums. It's funny. Yeah, I'm surprised he pulled you over. That's a dumb thing, the little light. And he said just one of the lights over the license plate, right? So that means there were multiple and one was working.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Uh-huh. It was epic.
Yeah, really respect police officers. I think they're great. It's not a job that I could do or want to do. But yeah, that's that circumstance of just anytime you have to interact with them, it's like the most stressful thing ever. I don't know why. Probably shouldn't be, because I feel like they can like sense your nervousness. And the funny thing is our maybe he wasn't, but our cousin is usually packing heat. So that could have been like a weird thing too.
Nope, the guns are in the house, so we're good.
Yeah, that would have been a whole other can of worms. Well, cool. I'm glad you didn't go to jail. There's not much new in my neck of the woods. I did get the 3D printer that I mentioned last week, though. And it's been great. It's a pretty basic beginner one. It's called an AnchorMake M5C. I think they're on sale right now for $199.99, which is $20 cheaper than I got it, even because it was on sale a few weeks ago when I bought it. So if you want it for $200, it's pretty solid. You can only print one color.
Affiliate link below this video.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. So click the link in the description so I can make my $6 or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of fun. It works really well. I've been impressed. Like, it hasn't had like issues. It like self levels the bed and everything, and it's pretty easy to load in the filament and take the filament out. It has a good mobile app and a good Windows app, so you can keep track of everything. And then I had an extra Wyze camera, so I just like plop that baby in the basement in front of it, so I can always just kind of check, make sure a print isn't going wrong. I need a little more like inspiration on things to make, because at this point it's been things like this mostly, which are, my kids are obsessed with them. Anytime we're at like the mall and we pass a booth with these, they want to buy all of them. And there's a lot of little 3D print shops when you go to malls nowadays, but these are called articulated animals. And it's basically like, this is a shark that my son really wanted me to make, and this is rainbow filament, so it kind of went from blue to purple. And then it's like, wow, you know, the pieces are joined together with these like little links. And it's nice because it prints it all linked together, so I didn't have to like glue anything here, which is kind of cool. And the mouth like moves, so there you go. You can play Jaws with your little shark.
And you made
sharks. That. Well, I downloaded a free file from Thingiverse and then pushed print, but yeah.
Dude, all I'm seeing is a way cheap Christmas.
Yeah, everyone's getting sharks. There's gonna be sharks in every single one of the presents, all the stockings. Yeah. No, those are pretty cool.
3D print the Christmas tree.
Yeah, that would take a long time. And that would probably be more expensive than just buying one. The filament, it's not like way expensive. You can get it for like $15 per kilogram. I said kilogram, weird right there. Kilogram, which is like 2-point-something pounds. And like this shark, for example, I could probably print like 75 of them. With that spool of filament. So I mean, it's not like crazy expensive, but if you're printing a lot and then you got to glue pieces together for a tree, I imagine that would be quite a few rolls, and the time, because the shark, for example, probably took a couple hours to print. So yeah, I don't know. You can like put it on a hyperdrive and it'll print like 3 times as fast, because it's a pretty fast unit. It'll go 500 millimeters per second, I think is the quoted speed, whatever that means. But
and is there like an arm or like a hand that is like getting really close to it doing this?
Yeah.
Or like, where's the stuff coming from?
Yeah, you should just Google real quick. We'll just pop over to the screen that we have with the stuff on the background. Just Google AnchorMake M5C. Yeah, there is a nozzle, I think it's called. And it's that little... Yeah, that's the guy there. And I'm trying to... I don't know which video to click on, but...
I don't either. I'm just going to use this one.
Sure. Yeah, that middle piece has like the filament kind of load into it. And there's belts that like move the bed on the bottom. So it moves, and then it can move vertically up and down. And that middle piece can move side to side on that track. So with those 3 kind of axes moving around, it can get to anywhere it wants. And then, yeah, it's like it can get up to 300 degrees Celsius on that nozzle. So one reason I got this one is because it has an all metal nozzle, so it can do hotter printing materials, because you can print other materials than just like this plastic filament. You can get, I don't remember what all of them are called. There's one that they call like silk, and I think you can print like TPU, which is kind of like the more soft stuff that like phone cases are made out of. And so you can print other materials, but most people, are doing this plastic. So yeah, that middle piece just kind of moves around.
Pieces?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like lead?
Oh, like actually out of metal? Probably not. I don't know for sure, but I don't know how metal would go on a spool, because it does need to spool in. Like there's that spool on the top with the filament that's kind of loading in that black tube. Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't have a section here of it printing. Oh, there we go, kind of. Any second, hopefully. Yeah,
there we go. Okay, so there is a little point.
Yep. And there's different like nozzle sizes. I think 0.4 is the most common, and that's what I've been using, but I bought some 0.2s in case I wanted to do something like really precise. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So I wanted to show you the other thing I've been using it for too. We'll talk about this game a little bit later, but I have a lot of board games, right? I've almost got 350, which is a little ridiculous, but sometimes I hesitate to pull a board game off the shelf just because setting it up is time consuming. Like I really want to play this game, but the way I have to fit it back in the box is either in lots of baggies, or like there's, I don't know, it can just, the way that it's stored in the box can help a lot in if I'm going to pull it out. I got this new game, really like it. It's called Salton Sea. It was recommended to me by somebody on my YouTube channel. So check out Gaming Top Down. I do board game stuff over there. Really great game. I really like it. But it's a tricky one to fit in the box. I mean, it's not like hard to fit in the box. It's hard to fit in the box in a good way to set it up easily. So I 3D printed an insert. Again, I just used a file that somebody has made online. Some people make the files because they're really good at like that 3D modeling software. I think it's generally called like Blender or something. Some people will sell their files for like a profit. And so that's one way you can make money in a 3D printing shop, is by selling the digital files or by selling the things you actually print. But there's also a big community of people that just make stuff and put it just for free on the internet. So you can usually find something for free as well, without, yeah. Anyway, so I found this insert, and it's holds everything in the box. A little hard, I'm tipping it a little bit, and some of the cards have slid, but it holds everything in there really nicely. And the cool thing is, instead of like having to dig through to set up, I can just pull out like some of these trays, and it makes setup like way easier. So I can pull out, let me see if I can give you an example. So this is a tray that has all of the player pieces in it for the green player. You can see under these cardboard pieces that you would have next to your board is slotted all of the player pieces. So I could just give this to somebody, they take it out of their tray, and then while they're setting up their little board, I can be setting up the rest, and the rest is generally also in trays, because there's like, this tray holds all of the cards that are value $1, which usually would be like in a baggie or accidentally have gotten mixed with the $3 cards. So I just pull this tray out and bloop, set it on the table. So that's one of my goals with the 3D printer, is to make some of my games easier to get to the table, because I can just blip, 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 pull out like 10 little pieces of plastic, and then the game's ready to play, as opposed to opening baggies, looking in the rulebook, trying to remember, where does this piece go? How many of each piece does each player get? So anyways, that was kind of my first test, was with this game. And I think it works pretty well. It will also hold sleeved cards, which I really appreciate, because a lot of games don't make it easy for you to store sleeved cards either. So there's a whole wide world about printing board game inserts, and a lot of companies that make board game inserts that charge a ton for them. Like there's I forget the name of the company. A company that just makes like these nice wooden inserts that are a similar idea, where like every piece has a place. You just hand like each player a tray, and they're like laser engraved wood, but they're like $50 a game if you buy them, right? And I probably spent like $3 or $4 in plastic filament to print. There's like 12 pieces, but you know, that's not too bad. And I got the STL file to print it for free, and it should make it easier for me to play this game, which is what I'm excited about. So I've got like 40 games that I want to print inserts for, which is maybe a little overkill. So I'll just start with a couple, see how it goes. But anyways, that's one little weird new thing I've been up to recently. 3D printers, they're pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
My neighbor who comes to my game nights, usually he's pretty busy. He's an attorney, so he doesn't get to come all the time. He actually got one like the same day, or maybe the day after I did, just out of pure coincidence. We didn't know that the other person was getting one. And I was texting him and I was like, hey, what kind did you get? And I told him the one I got, which is, mine's pretty solid and like a good model, but it's, like I mentioned, very like a beginner 3D printer. And he was like, oh yeah, I got this Bamboo like X1. And I'm like, oh, it's like a super nice $1,500 one that'll print like 6 colors at a time. And it's like super nice. And I was like, dang, must be nice. But anyways, 3D printers, they're pretty cool. I would, after almost a week, I would recommend them. My kids really like it. And most of the stuff I print for them is stupid. But hey, the shark, his mouth opens and closes. So look at that. So yeah, other than that though, not much new. Just a lot going on at work. Lots of videos going up on YouTube, and they've been doing a little bit better lately, which has been exciting. I got some new lights actually. They're pretty cheap. Just some what do they call them? I think they call them a light box, or a not light box, soft box. I think it's called a soft box light. Basically like the kinds at school pictures that just like a big puffy thing around a light bulb that kind of diffuses it. I got a couple of those, so I think my videos look a little better right now, which is good, and 3D printing stuff and working a lot. I don't know. I feel like I just went on a rant for a little bit, but that's probably all that's new in David Land.
That's
no
cool.
police. No police checking on the 3D printer though, so not as exciting as as the longboarding. But cool. Well, let's hop right in. There's a bit to go through this week. Not a ton, but I say that every week and then it always takes forever. So we're going to hop right in. Like I mentioned at the top, this is a board game and video game podcast. We talk about the news in the board game industry and the video game industry, games we've been playing, games we're excited about, new trailers and announcements, all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, make sure to check out the other episodes that we do. We post these on Super Game Brothers YouTube channel. You can get them on Patreon 3 days early, so please check us out over there. That's patreon.com/supergamebrothers. And you also get exclusive episodes. You can vote on topics for upcoming videos, our monthly Q&A, stuff like that. So yeah, please check us out over there. And yeah, I think that's probably all of the housekeeping. I guess by the time you hear this, August will be over. So make sure to join our September giveaway. Not sure what that's going to be yet, since we're recording here at the end of August. I did get a hold of Ryan, who won our July giveaway. And he opted for the gift card. So I sent that over to him yesterday. So that was nice. He told me he's going to get this board game that's been a pretty big deal the last couple of years. I think it's called the Tales from the Red Dragon Inn. It's a cooperative game, so that was exciting. Cool little story that he's going to use that that money to get that game that he wants to play with his kids. So anyways, we're not joking about the giveaway. Join it and share it with your friends and family as well. That helps us reach new people. All right, hopping in to the show at large, we usually start with the news mini nuke. This is where we will go over new game announcements and trailers and talk about new games to subscription services for the week. So we've got a few board games that I want to go over, and they have some kind of little blurbs, and so we'll kind of take turns reading them. A couple of them are long, so I don't know if we need to read the whole thing, but maybe I'll have you do the first one and then I'll skim the second one. But this company, Korea Board Games, I guess is pretty new, and they announced a couple games that are going to be coming out towards the end of the year. And what kind of their shtick is that they try to remake games that they feel like didn't get enough love. And so the second one we're going to talk about is a remake of an earlier game. I think this first one is an original design, but both of these games are from pretty well-known and loved board game designers. So this first game, it's called Lore Pets, and it has this funny little animal artwork, and it was designed by Wolfgang Kramer, and it's coming out later this year. It's kind of a paragraph there, Devin, but I'm going to have you take that one away, and I'll skim the next one because it's super long, and I'll try and crop some out.
Perfect. Are you ready to be keeper of the Royal Menagerie? We'll find out in Lore Pets when you compete against other contenders to find out who can catch the most critters. To set up, deal 10 different Lore Pets from the deck of 80 tiles face up into the central menagerie, shuffling duplicates back into the deck. Each of these tiles counts as a stack. Remove 10 tiles from the game without looking at them, then deal each player a hand of 6 tiles, setting the rest down as a deck. On a turn, each player chooses and reveals a tile from their hand simultaneously. If more than one player reveals the same type of Lore Pet, take all of these revealed tiles and start a new stack in the menagerie. If you are the only player to reveal a type of Lore Pet, take a stack of this type from either the menagerie or another player, add your tile to that stack, then place it in front of you. Refill players' hands to 6 tiles. Keep playing until no one has tiles in hand. All players compile their stacks into a single pile. Whoever has the tallest pile wins.
Interesting. That's a very simple kind of idea there, but and it seems like it'll be pretty light and fast, but might be kind of fun where it's kind of like rock, paper, scissors-ish. You're trying to fake people out by, okay, this round I'm going to play this card, and I hope I'm the only one, or a tile, I guess, the only one that played a tile with that animal on it so that I can win the entire stack. So, interesting idea. The next one that they are releasing later this year is called Label Legends, and this one is a remake of a game called Clunker that was designed by Uwe Rosenberg, very, very famous German, I believe, board game designer. He did Agricola and A Feast for Odin, which is right here on my shelf behind me. Patchwork is one of his most famous games as well. Lots of good games. This one is kind of a long one. I'm just going to read it, so deal with it. Okay, Label Legends. To set up, each player has one fan card, a random face-down card in their band area, and a hand of 6 cards from a deck that contains 7 genres of musicians. On a turn, each player, in clockwise order from the round starting player, places 0 to 6 musician cards from their hand into their waiting room. Next, in clockwise order, players can place 1 card face up in their band area or pass. When a player passes, they take the lowest numbered hype token, and players continue placing cards one by one until they all pass. Starting with the player who has the lowest hype token, a player can sign all of the musicians in someone's waiting room, including your own, by giving 1 fan card to the player who owns that waiting room. The player then places these cards in their band area. As soon as a player has 4 of the same type of musician in their band area, whether from playing cards there directly or from acquiring musicians from someone's waiting room, they must cash in those cards to gain fans. If you have only 1 type of musician in your band area, you flip all 4 cards for 4 fans. For each extra type of musician in your band area, you flip 1 fewer card, e.g., With 3 types of musicians, you flip only 2 cards to fans, discarding the other 2 cards from play. If a player declines to acquire musicians, the round ends immediately. Then players refill their hands to 6 cards. If this isn't possible because the deck is run out, the game ends. Whoever has the most fans wins. Looks like there you can add a Uwe Rosenberg conductor card as a joker as well, and that is basically it. So another pretty simple kind of card game where you're creating this waiting room, and you don't want your waiting room to be so much better probably than everyone else's, or else it will just get stolen by whoever took the lowest hype token. So the balance of when you take those and how good you make your waiting room is probably the kind of the intriguing part of that game. Anyways, 2 games that they are releasing at the end of this year. Next up, another company that I really like called Impatience. They make solo games. I think their first and most popular one was called Onirim, and it's a solo card game, and they've made probably like 8 to 10 other games all in this, they call it the Oniverse. You can see they always use the same type of art style, which I really like. It's like hand-drawn, but kind of like looks like a nightmare kind of idea. And they have like big, weird meeples. Like the meeple in this one is like that big white piece on the top right there, Devin. They always do at least one big, weird meeple. Anyways, very unique art styles to their games. I really like their stuff. They are releasing a few different games. First up, a second addition to Urbion. This one will be releasing at the Spiel convention in Germany, which I think is in October. Can't remember if it's late September or October, but we don't need to read the blurb there probably. It's just a second edition of Urbion, which came out probably 10 years ago. But I think it has 7 included expansions, so I think it kind of includes everything that was included after Urbion came out in a new version. So that's cool. Wanted to give that a shout out. The other thing that they revealed here I think is really cool. In the first half of 2025, kind of the creator of this series, his name is Shadi Torby, he announced that they are creating a new series. It's called the Min Imp, or basically like mini Impatience games. It's a series. They're going to have 4 different games that are all coming out in the first half of next year. And Shadi said, as the title of the collection suggests, they have in common their somewhat smaller box size and a relatively reduced component count, usually around 60 cards and some extras like a punch board or some oversized cards or some tokens or dice. For the themes and mechanisms, I wanted to have as much variety as possible, and since each game is by a different designer or team, they'll all have different artists. So this is cool. These are 4 like mini games, and their games are already mini. So these play in like 10 to 20 minutes, I think, generally. The first one is by Devin. What's his name? The good doctor
Reiner Knizia.
Reiner Knizia, yep. Who we mention a lot. He's designed like 700-800 games. It's called Freygard. Anyways, Devin, I'll let you read that one. But this is a game from Dr. Knizia.
All right, here we go. The horrible walking castles are about to invade the peaceful land of Freygard. Gather the most valiant defenders of this enchanted abode and defeat the relentless mechanical monsters. Freygard is a deceptively simple game of risk-taking and hand management. Each turn you have the choice between scoring, if possible, your hand of 3 cards, or draw 1 extra card, then discard 1, in order to improve your hand. If you're too greedy, you risk burning through your deck too fast, but settling down too often might not get you the powerful army you need to defeat the strongest walking castles. Interesting.
Yeah. Sounds pretty simple. You have 3 cards in your hand, and you either decide to play one or to draw a 4th and then discard 1. And they always use this kind of fantastical artwork. This one is a little different. It's not like the hand-drawn artwork from the Oniverse series, but still very fantastical walking castles and golems and stuff. So that's 1 player, 15 minutes cool. For 8 and older is what's recommended there. Next up is a game called Last Minute, designed by, I'm going to butcher these names, but Romarich Galonier and Luc Raymond. And Luc Raymond designed what's that game? I just got it. And it won like the Spiel award just this last year. It's the 2-player airplane one. Go! Sky Team. That was it. And it basically is one of the most hottest airplane games in the world. A cool cooperative 2-player game where you can't talk to each other. Anyways, pretty popular designer right now. This one, Last Minute. You're an elite bomb squad and have just 1 minute to defuse a series of dangerous devices before anything goes, Last Minute is a solo co-op game that plays in real time. You'll have to play the right defuse cards on the appropriate bomb cards, respecting a double timer condition. A cool head, fine planning, and if you face the challenge with friends, good coordination will be necessary to avoid an explosive defeat. That's 1 to 4 players, 10 minutes. Again, ages 8+. So, yeah, that is that one. Next up is the Mayor of Chicago. This one was designed by Xavier Georges. I don't know how to pronounce that. He's done a lot of big games too. I think Trois, Black Angel, which you can't see it. I have Black Angel back there. A lot of bigger like Euro games, so this is a smaller one for sure. Cool artwork, like anthropomorphic animals. There's an eagle, and an elephant, and a bear on the cover. Yeah, Devin, take that one away.
Okay. It's election year in Chicago, and as an aspiring politician, this might be your golden opportunity to rise to the coveted position of mayor. Will you gather enough money, popularity, and power to prevail? Mayor of Chicago is a solitaire game of tight management and tough choices. Each turn you draw a city card and decide whether you want to use it to expand your knowledge of the Windy City or hire the assistant depicted on the back of the card to benefit from their special power or scoring abilities. Only by managing shrewdly your resources and the powers of the assistant will you be able to gather enough votes to be elected.
Cool.
Ooh.
So kind of similar. You can either play the card down or decide to use the ability on the back. This one is a solo game, like it mentioned. This one says 30 minutes, so it's a little bit longer than the other ones, and for ages 12+. Okay, and last up is, I don't know if it's Ravel or Ravel, but I'm going to call it Ravel. It looks like it stands for Rare Artifact Vertiginous Enigmatic Logical. So there you go. But that one, can you pierce the secrets of the Ravel? And I already said this. Rare Artifact, vertiginously enigmatic and logical. Ravel is an endlessly resettable puzzle where you'll have to manipulate 8 dice placed in the center of a grid in order to solve the cog cards placed around it. Each solved cog card will grant you a unique opportunity to further unlock the remaining cards, but only the clever use of your limited resources will allow you to pierce the secrets of this strange contraption. So with the dice and probably the cards being a variable setup, it looks like they think that it can be different each time you play based on that. Solo game, 10 minutes, 10+. Looks like it has 32 cards, 1 grid, 12 tokens, 8 dice, and the rulebook in the box. They also did have an image with all 4 of these games, like sitting like they would be on a bookshelf next to each other, and they're all the same size, look nice. They're kind of like a complete collection. So anyways, I thought that was a cool idea for a new series from them. All right, next up, probably the other big board game announcement of the last week was Res Arcana Duo from Sandcastle Games. It's coming out in November of this year. This can be a standalone version of the game that can be played with 2 players, or it can be combined with the original Res Arcana or Res Arcana's other expansions. I haven't played Res Arcana, but I've almost bought it many times. And I think it's like a card game race to like 10 points or something like that, but it's supposed to be excellent. It's very high on Board Game Geek's best games of all time. It's supposed to be excellent. The notes that they have here say the gameplay is the same as in the original game. Life, death, Elin, calm, and gold are the essences that fuel the art of magic. Choose your mage, gather essences, craft unique artifacts, and use them to summon dragons, conquer places of power, and achieve victory. Yeah. I think, it does have one more note here. Res Arcana Duo features a new drafting method designed just for 2 players. So it's a little bit different in that way, but the rules about how you get points and how the cards work, I think, are very similar. So anyways, I might check that out. I've wanted to play this game for a while, just haven't gotten to it. So Res Arcana Duo was pretty hot on the hotness this last week. And I think those were all of the board game announcements that I wanted to bring up here. So now we're moving into some video game trailers and announcements. And a lot of these come from Nintendo. Had like a really small showcase this week. I didn't have us put the entire thing in, so we've got some of the highlights from that here. First up is this game called Morsels. It comes out in February. It's a roguelite with this really funky, awesome, in my opinion, artwork. It's being published by Annapurna, and I generally love their stuff. They do very unique games, and I think
do they have something to do with the horror genre?
I think they do quite a few horror games as well. They kind of do quite a variety. Annapurna horror games. I want to see what pops up here. They did. I don't see any like. They're actually a movie house as well. So that was a great question. I think they do movies and games, which is even more impressive. Annapurna horror movies. Let's see what those are. Maybe they don't do horror movies. I thought they did.
I always see specific names in when I'm watching horror films. So
yeah, like A24
BG or
does
Blumhouse or Blumhouse or A24.
Yeah, A24 does a lot of those.
Shudder. I mean, I love them all.
Annapurna does a lot of like kind of like thriller, like halfway horror movies. I would say like Her, Lawless, American Hustle, Zero Dark 30, The Master, Bombshell, Phantom Thread, Foxcatcher. Those are Killing Them Softly or some that I'm seeing here. Anyway, so yeah, they do movies as well. I'll read this one. The little blurb they had here is Morsels is a fast-paced creature collecting roguelite with a rotating roster of characters to switch between at will. Overcome a clique of killer cats as you fight your way out of the sewers in this unique action-packed journey. Coming February 2025 to Switch, PS5, and Steam, which I guess is PC, but I read it wrong. I don't know. I think it looks very funny. I love the weird pixel art. So that one's definitely a data game.
But I did notice one section looked clearer.
Yeah, right here. I feel like they kind of change art styles a couple times.
Interesting. Okay.
Because yeah, that does look like a jump from like Super Nintendo to PlayStation or something a little weirder. So I don't know. I don't know what the game's doing. Does look cool. Next up, this game was already known about, but it got a release date. It's called Neva, or it's Neva. I'm not sure. It's developed is the right word, by the same team that did the puzzle game Grease. Not sure how that's pronounced either. Which is supposed to be an excellent game. It's being published by Devolver Digital, who also does amazing video games. Game looks really cool. The release date is October 15th, and this guy I follow on IGN said that if you like games like Limbo, Inside, then you'll really like this one. And it also has like better combat, because there is like fighting, it looks like, with dodge rolling and things like that. So this one looks very cool in my opinion. I like the weird art style, but very funky. All right, next one, also a game that had already been announced, Rugrats Adventures in Gameland. It also got its release date trailer, and it comes out in like 12 days. This is September 10th of this year. This game they made to be like older, like NES games. And so they made it so that you can art swap at any time. So you can swap it to like 8-bit NES mode and then hit a button and it will still play the same, but all the art will change to like more modern art.
It's like the Halo remakes.
Yeah, kind of like that. Cool idea. I love that it exists. I hope it's fun. It looks a little stiff. I feel like it looks a little better in the movement, at least in this 8-bit mode. So I would maybe just play the whole thing like that, which sounds crazy. But like in this mode, it looks like stiffer and floatier to me for some reason. I can't determine why. I loved the Rugrats growing up.
Oh, it's the greatest. It really is.
Yeah, it's a good one. So anyways, it's coming to PlayStation, Switch, Xbox, and PC. Like I said, September 10th. Another thing from the Nintendo Showcase, Sea of Stars, which is a really cool game that was free on PlayStation Plus on day one when it came out, so you might already own it. It's getting a free expansion in the spring of 2025. This expansion is called Throes of the Watchmaker. And it has a new area, new enemies, new bosses. This is a turn-based RPG, but it does have active elements in the turn-based fights. So like if you press
what would you call this art style? I like this better. It's a little clearer.
Yeah, I would call this like, I mean, it's also pixel art, but it's like Super Nintendo 16-bit pixel art, where like 8-bit is like from the NES. So yeah, it is. This is more like Chrono Trigger and
right
looking. Yeah, the pixel art in this game is amazing. Really awesome artwork.
Super
Sea of Stars is really great. I've played a few hours of it, and it's awesome. Again, I'm very picky with turn-based games. We've talked about this a ton, but this one's fun because it has that active element of, okay, I'm trying to push this button at the right time. It has a cool story. You're like this two friends that somehow have magical abilities, and you're like from this town, and I don't remember every detail, but the characters are Zale and Valir. And Zale becomes a juggler, and Valir becomes an acrobat in this DLC. So it's free DLC if you own the game, which is a really cool thing. And it also adds a third playable character named Artie. So anyways, Sea of Stars, really fun. If you haven't tried that one, look out for that new DLC pack in the spring. Okay, another game that had been announced, but it did get like a 7 or 8 minute like gameplay look. This game is called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Weird name. It's being made by a French team, I believe. It's also a turn-based RPG, but it also has active elements here.
Yeah, same mechanic.
And like the camera angles like change like crazy. And again, if it's going to be turn-based, I want it to have at least some pizzazz in there to make it like a little more exciting. And I don't know. I think it comes out next year. The artwork and graphics look like they could be really good, but they're a little weird. So I don't know. I'm still unsure on this game. The turn-based thing, at least from the combat shown in this section, which is meant to be, let's show them the best stuff we have, looks like it could be exciting enough, maybe, for me to try it out. Weird enemies. Like, what the heck is that thing? It's like a big ogre with 4 eyes and a vertical line, and just did a backwards jump like 300 meters. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. The combat looked kind of cool, so I wanted to give that gameplay trailer a shout out. And yeah, like I mentioned, next year. Okay, next up, love this one. One of my favorite games growing up. I think we also had the sequel, but it's getting a remaster from, I think, the same team that designed it kind of like went away, and they've come back, Argonaut Games, and they are remastering Croc, Legend of the Gobbos, which I can just hear the soundtrack and Croc's weird noises in my head as I watch this. And it's not much more than a remaster where they made it look crisper, the graphics are updated a bit, and so this is kind of like how you would remember it. Even though if you went back to PlayStation 1, it would look way worse than this. But looking at it now, this is probably how you would remember it. And yeah, seeing those like that boxing enemy, like so weird. This one is supposed to come out later this year, is what they said. They didn't give a date or anything, but I'm like 2 down for that. Croc, Legend of the Gobbos. So I hope they do the second one too, if that does well. Because I don't know if we ever finished the second one. I can't remember it as well. anyways, I thought that was really cool. Another thing from the Nintendo Showcase, Konami's been really good at these collections of Castlevania games. One of the ones they did recently had the Game Boy Advance Castlevania games, which I really like. I had Circle of the Moon on my purple Game Boy Advance when I was a 10, 11-year-old. This collection is called the Dominus Collection, and it's from 3 Castlevania games that were on the DS, which I never had a DS. So they don't have like this nostalgia factor to me, but they look like the Game Boy Advance ones, just a little weirder because they have like the screen on the side that would have been the second screen from the DS. And in the trailer, it shows you can like orient them however you want. You can put that second screen on like above or below or to the right or left. And so some of the games look a little weird because they were catering to that second screen. But I've heard that the first one, Dawn of Sorrow, is supposed to be excellent. And a lot of these 2D Castlevania games from this period were really good. So I don't know, it might be really great. It was a shadow drop, so it's out now. And like I said, it includes 3 games: Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia, I think are the 3 that are kind of the most well-loved. And then they did throw in a 4th bonus game, which is, from what I read, kind of like a retro Castlevania game called Haunted Castle Revisited, and it's supposed to be extremely difficult. I've never seen this one before. It kind of looks like Super Castlevania 4. I don't know if it was in the arcade or what, but yeah, it's supposed to be very difficult, and it does look pretty hard. Like he has to jump here a bunch to like dodge the Medusa snake's tail, and so I don't know. If you like Castlevania games, especially Castlevania games from, what would that be, 20 years ago that were 2D on the Game Boy, then that might be for you as well. That's one I'll probably check out eventually. But I do need to finish the Game Boy Advance ones. Castlevania, what a great series. Those are like
fantastic.
Top
I could
tier.
live in those castles.
Yeah, and as far as Metroidvanias like go, the Castlevania games are some of the best for sure. Okay, next up, another one was a game called Tetris Forever, and I think it includes 15 different versions / variants of Tetris. I don't know what all of them are. Some of them looked like the original Game Boy Tetris, which I think was the one that really took off, that everyone loved, was the Game Boy version of Tetris. But there's a lot of different versions in here. Some of them don't even have the name Tetris. It was like Slamris or other, I'm probably butchering that, but different variants. So there's a lot of different variants of Tetris in this game. I don't think they gave a date, but they did say it would be out this year. So if you love Tetris, I feel like there was one that came out a few years ago called Tetris Effect. That's supposed to be excellent. It's like a more modern version with like really psychedelic artwork and music that like goes on while you play it. They also have it in VR, so you can get like really immersed. And that one is supposed to be super excellent. So I wonder if this one that's based on like older Tetris games will also be excellent. Who knows? Okay. And then last up, a little quick thing. It seems like Sony may have accidentally leaked the release date for what I think looks like a really cool game, Lego Horizon Adventures. This image was on the PlayStation website. I think it's been taken down since, but it says, join Aloy and friends here. No, it doesn't say here. I was meant here because it's on the website. Join Aloy and friends in a lush wilderness on a quest to save the world, available November 14th on PS5, PC, and Nintendo Switch, which is really cool. Again, that it's launching on Switch. So probably look out for that on the 14th. It seems like since it was on PlayStation's website, that's probably pretty accurate. And will probably be announced whenever Sony has their next showcase, where they will likely reveal the PlayStation 5 Pro, show some new games, and probably this release date. All right, that was all of the quick news items for the week. So, new games to subscription services. Just today, Sony announced the PlayStation Plus Essential games that will be free starting on this coming Tuesday, which I think is September 3rd? Maybe it's the 2nd. 2nd or 3rd. Doesn't matter. Tuesday. And the 3 games are, one of them we already knew, but this is Quidditch Champions, which is a cool addition because it's launch day for that game. So that's that doesn't usually happen with games here at the Essential tier. They sometimes throw like day one games on the Extra tier, which is a slightly more expensive tier. But cool that that's on the Essentials tier. That one's for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And since it is brand new, I did include the blurb here. I've been talking for a minute. Devin, would you mind reading this blurb? And then we'll go to the next two. Cool.
Immerse yourself in the enchanting world of Quidditch by playing solo or sharing the magic with friends and family. Live your Quidditch fantasy. Take to the sky as one of the classic positions: chaser, seeker, keeper, or beater. Each with their own unique playstyle. Soar into legendary Quidditch arenas and new maps that showcase never-before-seen areas of the wizarding world. Take on career mode to progress from backyard battles in the Weasley Burrow to high-stakes showdowns at the Quidditch World Cup. Rise to become a champion either solo or in online co-op with teams of up to 3 friends, and launch into exhibition matches where you'll set your teams, map and difficulty, and play alone or on teams of up to 3 in online co-op. Or select player versus player to test your skills in competitive online matches against other Quidditch teams.
Sounds pretty cool. Like from the blurb, it has a very weird art style where they went for like a, what if Pixar made this game kind of? It's like very, I don't even know the right word. Colorful and not going for like hyper realism. It's like more going for like a playful art style. I didn't read about this, but maybe I should have. I wonder if they have what do they call it? Like, what is that called? What's MMR stand for in a Rocket League? Like your multiplayer.
No idea.
Ranking, right? And there's a term for multiplayer modes where it tries to match you with someone skill-based. That's the word. Skill-based multiplayer. I wonder if this is going to have that. Like, are you going to be a diamond level 3 Quidditch player and then can rank up to like a, I don't know, champ 3 in Harry Potter Quidditch Champions? That might be kind of fun. I don't know. I saw a few comments from people online saying that just kind of the gameplay loop was giving them Rocket League vibes. And when you say that, I don't know. Those were just people on Reddit. That might not be true, but so I'll probably download this and try it out. Hopefully it's fun. Like I said, a cool addition since it's launch day. I can't decide if that means that Sony is like bullish on the game and they think it's going to be really good and so they wanted it in the service, or if it means it's kind of a dud and Warner Brothers wanted some extra money and so Sony said, yeah, we'll have it on our service. So I'm not sure. It could go either way probably, but I hope it's excellent. That would be cool. I mean, Harry Potter's got a big pull. We saw that with Hogwarts Legacy. I think it was the best-selling game. Was that last year or the year before? I don't remember. Probably last year. So this is probably going to get played a ton. Hopefully it's really solid. We'll see. Make sure to add that one to your library. All 3 of these games, add them to your library on Tuesday. That way you can play them forever as long as you have PlayStation Plus. These, again, at the Essential tier, do not get rotated out. So you will have them in your library forever. Okay, next is MLB The Show 24, which is, I think, a big get. I think this is the newest version. I believe. I don't think 25 has come out, right? I forget with like the sports games, they usually use like the next year. But I think 25 will come out in March. Anyways. Regardless, it's a very high quality baseball game made by Sony's own team, whose name is spacing me at the moment, but they've been making MLB The Show for I think decades at this point, and it's really the only baseball game of consequence if you want realistic baseball. And they're supposed to be excellent. So if you like baseball games, this one's kind of a slam dunk, even though slam dunk is the wrong sport.
This one's a home run.
This one's a home run, and it's on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And then last up is Little Nightmares 2, which is kind of, I call these like light horror. They're horror games, but they're not first person. They're like a little creepy, but like a fun level of creepy, not so much that you're going to have a hard time sleeping. And I think they're excellent. Again, if you like games like Limbo and Inside, that are 2D kind of horror games, then you'll really love this. I thought it was really great. It does have a little more like 3D because you can go like into the background and into the foreground a little bit, but it is mostly like left to right. Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2, both developed by Tarsier. Excellent games, and their new one we talked about last week was just announced called Reanimal. I really love the horror vibes that they go for because it's David level horror. They're not creeping up into Devin level horror, which is like uber scary, which I'm sometimes down for anyways. But anyways, that's the 3 games. Add them to your libraries on Tuesday. Quidditch Champions, MLB The Show 24, and Little Nightmares 2. Okay. Next up, I think we covered these last week, Devin. I just forgot to take the link out, but we'll just do a quick reminder. If you have Game Pass, Atlas Fallen, Core Keeper are both available now, and on September 3rd, Star Trucker. And yeah, we covered those last week, so I'm not going to spend any more time on them, but those were the second half of August games for Game Pass. All right, Epic Game Store has 2 games this week. First one is the Fallout Classic Collection, which contains Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel, which are very different games than Fallout 3 and 4. They're not first person. They're kind of like a computer RPG, and I have never played any of these ones, but I know people that love Fallout, sometimes they are like really hardcore and like these ones better because they think that they're like a more traditional role-playing experience and more what Fallout should be, as opposed to like the first-person shooter that they have kind of become. So I know there are different opinions on that, but if you like Fallout, again, these are totally free. Add them to your Epic collection, library, whatever it's called. Next up is a football game called Wild Card Football that I had never heard of in my life. It's kind of like arcade football. Big, chunky looking dudes that are jumping really high, and again, not going for Madden competition here. This is like not quite NFL Street, but what if we made Madden that looks easier to play? And oh, that was a weird power up all of a sudden. The guy just grew like he ate a Mario mushroom. So maybe this is more like NFL Street than I realize. But this is Wild Card Football. Again, add it to your Epic Game Store library. And then last up, we already went over the Prime Gaming free games for September, but they just added a few more because Rings of Power comes out tomorrow. At least the first episode, I think, from when we're recording. So they are giving away, 2 free Lord of the Rings games on Prime. Lego Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year Edition. And then you can also play Middle-earth Shadow of War on their streaming service Luna. But the other 2 are actually like free downloadable copies from Good Old Games. So if you have Prime, add those to your collection. Again, they're free. You'll have them forever. And those Lord of the Rings games are great, like we'll talk about at the end of the episode today. All right, so that is it for the news mini nuke this week. So we're going to hop into what we have been playing. And both of us are playing the biggest game in the world right now. I haven't played as much, so maybe I'll start and then you can fill in kind of my gaps. But we're both playing Black Myth Wukong, which, yeah, is really awesome. I've been surprised at how much I liked it. I've only played like the first 90 minutes. I have the video up on our YouTube channel if you want to watch it. It's not as entertaining as Devin's live streams of it, which you can also watch on our YouTube channel. But I wanted to play it anyway, so I thought, I'll just hit record and we'll see what happens. Yeah, very fun game. I think I've beat the first 2 like kind of main bosses and a couple side bosses. And yeah, I really, really like it. I think the tutorial section just kind of like set up like a crazy story. It was kind of a really cool scene with you floating on the clouds over to the big fight in the clouds. I was a little nervous that a voice actor for the Sun Wukong character, the first monkey, was a little much. I don't know if you remember the very beginning of the game, but he had like that really high pitched voice, and oh, I am now entertained. And I was like, oh man, am I gonna have to listen to this guy talk the whole time? But then there's like a time jump, and you actually end up playing the game as a different monkey who I think is silent. I don't think he says anything. At least he hasn't to the part I'm at yet. So that crisis was averted. But other than that tiny little crisis, yeah, the game's awesome. I think the character like design is awesome. It's very like, it's probably very Chinese, which is kind of refreshing to me. It's not just like American Western fantasy. Not like, oh, here's another ogre. It's really cool and unique things. So what you're looking at visually, I think is really fun. I'm playing on performance mode, which is the only correct way to play. And it is like slightly less pretty on performance mode. There's a little bit of like tiny bit of blurriness and jaggies like around some edges. I noticed it the most during that tutorial segment, and I feel like it did get better after that big section in the cloud with the floating dudes around. So I really haven't noticed, like, if you're gonna like stop and I don't know, look at it while you're standing still, I think you could notice, but the game is very fast paced. The monkey moves fast. So you're just having fun. You don't really even notice. Performance has been pretty good. I haven't noticed any dips to this point. I think you've mentioned like a few times like, oh, frames dropped there for a second, but then it seems to pick right back up.
Very rare.
Yeah. So no complaints there for me. And I just think it's really fun to play. There's surprisingly like a lot of customization in the skill trees. And I'm not even very far. A lot of the skill trees are still locked for me. But there's like the 3 different stances, and I did start the second stance just because I want to see like how different it is playing with the I forgot what that one's called. It's not balance, but it's the one where you can kind of balance pillar on the top of your staff. Yeah, pillar, that's it. So I want to see what those kind of introduce. I think you have to change stances with the D-pad mid while you're playing or something. So I haven't gotten very far into that. Yeah, it feels really good. I feel like it's giving me just enough of like the Souls-like feel or Sekiro feel. Your character is still fast. You can dodge a lot without running out of stamina generally. And I feel like the animation work in the game is probably one of its strongest points, where like the characters look really cool when you're fighting. Like when you hit them, like they move like you've hit them. And like their attacks have cool animations that telegraph just enough that an attack's coming. And so sometimes the response time has to be really fast, but I feel like I can tell like when something's coming, which is helpful. I think I only died a couple times in this segment. Surprisingly, I beat that dude with the big smashing head on like my second try, which was I think lucky. I think it's because I beat this guy first, and then I was able to use this tiger with like the flame spear, and then I was able to use his transformation on that guy, which really helped. And then I beat the next boss as well, who was like the big werewolf dude that was trying to bite you, who was jumping on the rooftops and stuff. And I think that's about where I ended. So yeah, at this point, really, really like it. I think I don't really have any negatives at this point, other than, yeah, I wish like some of the smidge of blurriness and the jaggies weren't there. I wish it ran like I could put it on quality mode and it still ran at 60 frames, but you could say that about almost every game since I'm, playing on a console and not on a PC where I can just turn it up to max. But I think the PC version has had a ton of bugs, so I'm kind of glad I'm playing it on the console, which seems to be handling the game pretty smoothly. So that's probably my thoughts here on Black Myth at this point. Again, really like it. I think it was one of the games I was most excited about for the rest of 2024, and it seems really awesome. I don't know that I'm playing it like especially well. It seems like someone that was really good could like you do, Devin, like kind of min-max like a build and the stats, and like I want this cooldown to be like timed correctly with this one, and if I upgrade this stat, it will help me with afflicting, I don't even know, burn or poison or something. And I haven't gotten to the level where those things are probably even unlocked. And even in games where they are unlocked, I struggle with like putting all those things together. So we'll see how far I can get, because I do know, even though it's not like a Souls game and it doesn't feel like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, really, I don't think. Feels probably most like Sekiro, but again, there's no parry. There's mainly just dodging, so it feels like its own thing. But I'm glad it's still somewhat difficult, so it still feels really like rewarding when you're able to beat a boss. So I don't know, really like it. Really like Black Myth Wukong. After 90 minutes, Devin, you've played like 35 hours, I think. So what's your opinion that much further into the game than me on Black Myth Wukong?
Yeah.
And you can go to your video now, which will be more exciting than mine, probably.
I talked a bit about this game last week on the podcast. I still love it. I still have the same opinions on it. Here's one of the coolest bosses in the game. Just a tiger drinking out of a puddle of blood. Like, I'm going to wreck your face. This is a while back. Cool. This is a few days ago. The game is set up in a fantastic way. They allow you to respec everything that you do. If you make a mistake on your upgrades, you can kind of just reset, redecide how you want to play it. Armor sets have specific perks, so you choose your armor set based on perks, not based on defense. I think that's super cool. The game has a ton of secrets, which I think is awesome. You can do optional side quests to really boost your chances of beating a chapter boss. And that makes the game cool. It gives you the ability to complete a section that seemed impossible beforehand by doing some extra things before leaving an area.
Yeah.
There's so many different upgrades. I just got into stances. I think you can actually combine the stances. I think you can do pillar and smash, and you would only need to switch to pillar, but you'd still get the benefits from smash.
Oh, interesting.
I think pillar might be the only one you actually have to D-pad to it to change.
Right.
Maybe there's one other that does that as well. There's a ton of things in the game. You've got transformations, which are life-saving. You can turn into...
They're really cool, too.
It really is, and they all play so differently. You can basically transform into a character that you've beat, into their form, use their abilities, and in that time, health isn't too much of a stressor, because if the transformation dies, you're back to the health that you had beforehand, and so it's a good thing to hold on to that ability maybe until a boss is low health, then pop that just to know that I will beat this boss as my transformed self. You've got, what do they call them? Is it blessings? No, spirits. So other enemies will glow blue, and you can get their spirits and basically use their abilities using ki, or chi, however you pronounce it. And that builds as you hit enemies. And there's so many to choose from. There's headbutt ones. I'm using one that was a bat that freezes enemies. I have a big centipede one that rolls around the arena. And there's a ton of those. You've got what's called vessels, which are special items that you get in different chapters. There's not as many of them, it seems like, but you can decide what vessel you want to use. Some might be damage reduction. I currently have, I don't want to spoil anything, but I have a needle that floats near me like Guardians of the Galaxy. That guy's needle.
Like
it's just, it's wandering around just attacking people as I walk for a short time. And that's super helpful. The perks and the skill trees are insane. So many. I don't even know how to explain the depth of a build in this game. It's the perks of your weapon combined with the perks of your armor, combined with what type of heal you want. Do I want a healing gourd that heals me in a greater fashion right off the bat, or one that heals a little bit and over time goes even further than your standard gourd? And then you can put perks in your heals for damage reduction, poison resist. The list goes on and on. So that's very customizable. I mean, it's just crazy. The game is so good. It does get framey in some spots, but there's beautiful things about this game. If you compare it to a Souls game, there's a lot of places in Bloodborne that were very scary to even traverse. Even after beating that area, it's like, I can't go around the corner. There's a massive enemy there. He'll just clap me. But in this game, it's like, I know that I want to search this corner. I've already beat this spot. Let me just freeze that enemy and run past him. It has a very generous stamina bar for sprinting.
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean, honestly, the game is fantastic. And I have nothing bad to say about it. I just want to just keep playing it and explore everything that it has. And I will be sad when it's over.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you're still hooked, because I'm definitely feeling that same pull of like, wow, this seems really cool. And I was just kind of like absorbed in watching this fight that you have on the screen with the tiger and his animations and how he moves, and even like how he, before he does a sword slash, he'll like reach up back to grab his sword off his back, and the ways that all of the characters move is so cool. And I'm surprised they have as many bosses as they do in the game, because I feel like animating all of these very different looking enemies would be very difficult. But yeah, I don't know. I really, really, really like it so far. I think it. Yeah, I just think it's really cool. And just like you said, there are enough little hidden secrets. Like I wandered a few different directions and found like a little mini boss that I wouldn't have found, and he had something valuable. And it seems like the main kind of way you're encouraged to do that is when you find those optional kind of mini bosses, you can unlock those, I forgot what you call them, the spirit like things, or another transformation that you wouldn't have had. And so they do end up helping you a lot in the combat through the rest of the game too, by finding those. And I think even that enemy you fought today, the yellow, whatever his name was he an optional boss that you just really wanted to beat?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was called the Yellow Loong, and it was very, very tough, and probably took me 20 to 30 tries, and each try was minutes and minutes long. It was hard fought, and I was barely doing damage to him. And I mean, there were times where I had learned to perfectly dodge like a 7 attack combo.
Yeah, he did really long combos. And
there were tight windows of attacking back, and it's just that's what a game should be. You can learn it so well and go, wow, I understood his mechanics, even though I'm not as strong as that enemy was, and I overcame that challenge, and now I get a benefit from it.
Yeah. How's his transformation? Was it worth the time you spent on him? Is it a good one?
So far, I think it's the best one that I've unlocked. Yeah. For some reason, they allow you to be in his transformation longer than others. And
interesting.
It's been very handy, and he does some shock damage as well.
Okay.
But the game is beautiful. It's perfect. If it wins Game of the Year, I'll just be like, heck yeah, it did. Heck yeah, it did. I'm as absorbed as I was in Bloodborne. Like I'm just like, let me just destroy this game and do it perfectly in my own way, and see what it has to offer, and it'll be a beautiful memory when it's over.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're loving it, because I think I will as well. I do like Bloodborne's gothic vibe. There's something special about that, but I like the vibe this game has too. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's like very Chinese, and that's like a thing I don't see a ton, and so it's unique. It's this Journey to the West story that we don't know a lot about, and it's very odd, and there's characters that don't have heads, and you turn into a bug for a minute and fly around, and so there's the story's like weird, but it's presented really well. And it's mainly just about like the fights and stuff. I'm sure that some people get really deep into the lore, but yeah, I don't know. It seems really cool. I'm really, really digging it. It might be like a game that would be fun to do, like a 30-minute to an hour kind of spoiler cast about it, where we talk about like our favorite parts and all of them, like the ending and the most difficult boss fights, what we thought about the story once we're finished. That might be a little bit, since I'm generally slower at games, but that would be a fun idea. Cool.
Well, you don't get to play them for 8 hours a day.
Not yet, unfortunately. Hopefully one day, if this can become like our full-time gigs, that would be cool to be able to put quite a few hours in every day. Unfortunately, a lot of my video game time has become like the time that I'm making videos and posting stuff and editing stuff. But I need to figure out how to balance that a little better. But yeah, very, very awesome game. I think it deserves all of the praise it's been getting. Really quick, while we're talking about it, let's just hop into news item number 1, and then we'll go back to the board games that we played this week. And just to really confuse your links here, and you don't even have to pull this one up, but the Black Myth Wukong official Twitter account tweeted out just a couple days after the game released that the game had a combined 3 million concurrent players. So that's across what I think was a 2.2 something million on Steam, and then some, 800,000 or whatever on PlayStation 5. And it has sold 10 million copies in its first 3 days, which is a massive, massive number. Just to like put that in context, I think Push Square, the website, had a really great example. They said, to put that quote in some sort of perspective, Helldivers 2, which is one of the best-selling games of this year, sold around 1 million copies in the same time frame. Helldivers had kind of a longer tail where people were telling their friends and more people kept hopping in, but 10 million in just a couple days is bonkers sales. So it's a humongous game that kind of has the entire industry in a chokehold right now. I'm sure that there is quite a bit of Chinese influence on that with, them being excited about a game from their country coming out. But it seems like everyone in America and Europe and Japan and other places are playing it too. So it doesn't seem like it's just the Chinese audience that's loving this one. And we just raved about it for like 20 minutes. So I think it's very, very excellent. So just while we're talking about Black Myth, I thought that was a good timing to just throw that in. All right, so that's really it for video games this week.
I have one more.
Oh, you do? Wow. Hit me with it.
It is one of the weirdest games I've ever played. We'll just quickly cover it. I don't have a link pulled up for it, but I played Cult of the Lamb.
Oh, I love that game.
Over this last weekend, that game cracks me up. It is epic. It's like, let's gain a bunch of followers to our cult and indoctrinate them and convince them to work for us. And we're going to go out on adventures and fight. And that game is just hilarious. If you haven't played it, you should try it. The art style's funny. The combat is actually pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it is.
And there's just a lot of accidents in that game. You're cleaning up poop. You're planting trees and building forts and trying to get your workers to work more seamlessly and not die and feed themselves and whatever. We had one guy in our cult that he just was like, I've loved serving you, and now I'm going to die of old age in a few days. It's just like, oh, man. And you can name all the characters and whatnot. That game's funny. The game is super, super funny. It's like Enter the Gungeon in a way. You go.
It kind of is.
With survival. You exit and enter a room in the same fashion. Funny combat. That game's funny. It's not my favorite game I've ever played, but it's enjoyable.
I'm really glad that you played it. I really liked that game. I beat it when it first came out. I think it's had quite a few updates though since. I think it now has co-op, doesn't it? Were you playing it?
Yes, that's how
together.
We played it.
Yeah, so that's cool that you can do that now too. I was just trying to look to see if I have the platinum trophy, and I'm struggling to find my trophies on the PlayStation app. It doesn't really matter, but I did beat that game. Really, really liked it. And yeah, it is fun. You get when you're out on your runs, you find people that you can save and convert them to your cult, and then you might sacrifice them the next morning. Yeah, really, really funny game. It's all presented in these cute little animals with really good music as well. I really like the music in that game. So good shout out. I love Cult of the Lamb. It's been probably a year since I've played it, but like we just mentioned, it has a co-op update and I think some other updates that it's had. So check that one out for sure. I think it maybe was on PlayStation Plus recently as well. So you might have it in your library if you've been following my advice and adding everything to your collection like you should be. So cool. Love that. Love surprise games. All right. For the board games that we've been playing this week, I've got a few. I showed this game at the beginning to show my 3D printed insert. I've played this game twice now, just solo. It does have a pretty good solo mode. You play against a fictional company that takes turns, and their turns are really easy to administer, which is nice. This game, you play as a company that is drilling for brine, and I think this is a real thing. The first couple pages of the rulebook are like an explanation of this real place and how this actually works, but these companies drill for brine in the Salton Sea, which is down near California and Mexico. And then they extract this brine and then can process it into geothermal energy and lithium energy. And I guess it's like super important for those types of energy across the world. And so that is your goal. You run your own little company and you have to drill brine. So you have to get new like drilling contracts, and then you have a drill piece that you can use in action to like drill down. And if your drill hits rocks, your drill can take damage. And if your drill is damaged, then you'll lose money at the end of the game. This game is pretty complex and heavy. I think it's like a 3.7 on the complexity scale. So it's up there. It's probably about like Revive, Devin, which we played a few months ago. But the difference between this and something like Revive is in Revive, you start to eventually feel like more capable. They usually call that like engine building in a game, where like at the beginning of the game, I feel like I can't do much. But as the game goes on, my abilities have gotten better. And I start to take better and better and better turns. And by the end of the game, I feel very capable. This game only has the tiniest portion of that. This game is, I would call the opposite of that, is very tight, where you build up and build up to get brine, and then you build up and build up so that you can process it, and then you like feel kind of, what's the word, like depleted of the resources that you needed to process it. Then you sell it, or sell the energy, the lithium and geothermal energy, and finally have like a lot of money. And then on your very next turn, you have to spend all of that money to do something else. So it's like a very tight game where you can't complete everything, and you never really feel like, oh, I can just do whatever I want now. It's always tricky. And that kind of game is brutal on your brain a little bit, because you like feel like you're never like getting over the hump. It's like always tricky. But I like that kind of game. I really liked Sand earlier this year, which is on my shelf right here. And it's a pick up and deliver game where every time you move to pick up new goods, it like takes thirst and hunger and health away from your silkworm, which is like your means of transportation. So that game is also really tight, where like it's hard to get places, then it's hard to pick up goods, and it's hard to sell goods. But then when you finally do, you finally have money. But then you have to spend that money, and then it's hard to do stuff again. In that game, you can upgrade your worm a little bit, and in this one, you can get slightly better from like round to round. There's a bit more going on. You're buying stocks in these shares, in these 3 different companies in the center of the board, and you can sell that energy back to these different companies in order to gain points. The main thing you're doing, though, Devin, there's a great picture that you're on now, is managing your board. This is your company board, and on your board is a lot of different things, and you can send your engineers to any of the spots on the board that have dashed lines and perform the action there. That action might be to drill, like I already mentioned, which moves your little drill piece down to your next card. It might be to sell something that you have in your warehouse. It might be to repair your drill. It might be to process some brine. So basically, it's kind of a worker placement there, where you take an engineer and you place him somewhere, and then you get to do whatever that thing is. The cool thing about this game is you have cards in your hand, and the cards are double-sided. I already kind of mentioned the back of all of the cards has either $1, $3, or $5 on it. And those cards act as your currency in the game. So you don't have coins. or anything else. Those cards are your currency. The back, oh, this is a perfect picture. Thanks, Devin. The backs of the cards have that dollar amount on them. Whenever you need to spend money, you have to discard cards equal to the value you need to spend. But the front of those cards are actions that you can take that also have that dashed section on the bottom. So I could put an engineer on that card to take this action, and the actions on the cards are usually better versions of the actions that are in your factory. So I could use this card for the front side, which is the action, which will let me drill farther, or process better, or sign a contract, or sell multiple shares at a better price. But if I do that, that card is locked down for the entire round because now it has an engineer on it, and so I can't spend it for the backside for currency. But any card that I spend for the backside, I'm discarding, and I can't use for the front side for the action. That balance is really cool. Really cool. I think it's awesome, but it's hard. You finally get like a level 5 card that's worth $5. I always say millions because I want to sound like a baller when I play board games, but you get a card that's finally like a high value. So I could spend that card to do a lot of cool stuff. But the action on the front is so much better because it's worth 5. Like I can like get stuff for a discount of 3, which is like huge, $3, which is huge. Or anytime I do drill, I get to drill 3 spots down. Or so the card on the front is so valuable, but it's worth so much money on the back. So that push and pull is really, really cool. Game's really tough. The solo opponent crushed me both times, like 70 to 120. And then the next time I played, I got slightly better, maybe like 80 to 110 or something. But so it's a tricky puzzle to solve. I really like it. I don't think it's like one I would want to play every day just because it is such a brain burn and it's a brain burn in a way where you don't feel like, yay, at the end of the game, I'm so capable and I can do whatever I want. You always feel like I can't do everything I want. And anything I want to do is going to get rid of a card that I really want to keep. Anyways, really cool game. I really like Devere's medium box game line. Sand, I just mentioned, was also a game from Devere. So was White Castle and the Red Cathedral. And this is their most recent one. This one's definitely heavier and more complex than those other ones that I just mentioned. But really, really cool game. I think I'll have a review up on the channel soon. I just want to play it multiplayer a few times because, again, I've only played it solo. But I really liked it solo. I liked it so much I 3D printed an insert for it so that it will be easier to pull out. So, Salton Sea, really recommend it. I have an unboxing up on Gaming Top Down if you want to see what the pieces look like. And like I mentioned, I should have a review out pretty soon. Okay, next 2 games I played, I'll be short and sweet about. I played Scout some more. I think this is my favorite new card game. It's excellent. It's just so good. It's a card shedding game. You're trying to get all the cards out of your hand. Similar to something like Phase 10, right? Where you're trying to get everything out of your hand. And any cards you have in your hand at the end of the round are negative points. But this one is so much better than games like Phase 10 because it's much shorter. This you can play in like 20 minutes, where Phase 10 is like a 2-hour long ordeal because you've got the different phases you have to go through. So the length is just like way more perfect. You have much better decisions, and you can also score points in this game so there's a push and pull of like, if I purge all the cards from my hand, then I'll get like 0, but everyone else will get a ton of negative points this round, which is good for me. Or I could try and just lay out some really killer sets, and then the next few players that go won't be able to beat my set, and so they have to scout or take one of my cards, and that gives me a positive point. So you're focusing on getting positive points, but also shedding cards so that you're losing negative points. Scout's amazing. Really great card game. I think everyone should own it. If you've played anything like Uno or Phase 10 or Rummy, this game's better. I promise. It's really great. So you can get it at Target. I have this version in a very, very small box. They just came out with a new version. It's the same game, just in a different size box that you can get at Target. And I think that one's probably a little easier to fit back in the box. This one's a little tricky. Yeah, Scout's amazing. And then next up, I played a game I hadn't played in probably a year and a half. But this is one of the very first games that got me into hobby board gaming. I got it in 2019. This is Wingspan from Stonemaier Games. I have a couple of expansions for Wingspan now, and I actually played with a neighbor's copy. It was not at my house. And it was with his copy. And I remember when me and my wife played this the first time, we were like, man, this game is so complicated. Like, I don't think we are ready to play this game and probably any other games like it ever again. Luckily, we pushed through, and it became one of our most played games. I've played it 20, 30 times, I don't know. And it's one of the most successful and popular recent board games as well. Playing it again just a few days ago, having not played in like 18 months, man, this game is so simple. I'm surprised that we were so confused. But, you know, you're first learning like engine building and what can I do on my turn. I have action points and these cubes I track the action points with. So it sounds like a lot, but it's really such a simple game. But yeah, such a great one. Really love Wingspan. Lots has been said about this game all over the internet. If you haven't played it, it's really great. So really recommend Wingspan. I'm excited. My neighbor has Wormspan, which is the sequel to this, which has dragons instead of birds. And it's a little bit more complicated. And I do want to try that one. Even more now that I was able to play this one again recently. I lost out of the three of us that played. I lost by like 10 points, which was a bummer, but I didn't even care. It was fun. Wingspan is a great time. So definitely play that one if you haven't. It has a really great Steam and Switch version as well, if you want to play it digitally. Very pretty version. All right, those were the board games I played this week. Devin, you going to hit me with a surprise board game like you did with the surprise video game?
Sadly, I got nothing.
Okay, that's all right. All right, I cut one segment from our show. I don't know if you noticed, Devin, but the new games this week. That is just a very difficult thing to keep track of mainly because of the new board games. It's just like an impossible list to create. Because the release dates are shifting, you can kind of know, but I'll tell you, this is going to be out this month, and then it's delayed 3 months, and I'm like, sorry, I don't know. So I'm going to ditch that section, and we're going to change it to this, which is just what we're most looking forward to this week. If there's like a new game coming out, then we'll cover it here, just kind of by default. So it kind of covers the same thing I wanted to cover with the new games coming out. Just doesn't require like, I would need like great connections at like Asmodee and Stonemaier and like millions of other board game companies in order to really lock down these release dates. And there's already like a great YouTube channel, Grant's Game Rex, and he does have those connections, and he does great videos like the new game's coming out in August, and he has a list of 30, and he's like, yeah, they sent me this one and they told me this one's coming out next week. So that already exists. I feel like I was trying to shove it in here, so this is just a little bit different. So each week we're just going to talk about what, if there's anything new coming up that we're really excited about. That way we can be a little more timely as well. Like, hey, this is something I'm actually going to play that I'm excited about, instead of, hey, here's a new game this week that I'm never going to play. You know, I don't know. I think this is a little bit better. And Devin, I give you no notice. So if you don't have anything here, that's totally fine. I just have two things I wanted to bring up. First up, there's a big sale on the PlayStation Store going on. They call it Deal Mania. There's 2,100 items included in this sale. So that's one of the things I'm most excited for this week, is just to look through this sale, and especially to look at my wish list, which I have about 100 items in my PSN wish list, and see which of those are included in the sale. Because I imagine that some of the games I'm really wanting to try out, like Arranger and Thank Goodness You're Here and Nine Souls, which is coming to PlayStation soon, and Crypt Custodian, which just came out. So these are, again, me listing some of the games I'm excited about, might be included in this sale. So check out the Deal Mania sale if you're looking for a game on PlayStation. I think their wish list feature is pretty cool too. You can add a game to your wish list, and just like on Steam, if it does go on sale, then it will usually like notify you with like an email or a push notification like, hey, this game from your wish list is on sale, just so you know. It's how they make more money, but it's also a helpful tool for me to like keep track of, so that I don't have to manually look at all those things. So that's just a shout out to that sale, because I'm guessing there's a lot of good stuff in there. Just from some of the articles I was reading were saying it's a pretty big one. So as far as video games are concerned, mostly just excited to continue playing Black Myth Wukong and then check out that sale. Any games, Devin, that you're excited to check out after you finish Black Myth, or is it, do you think you'll jump into a round 2 of that game, or is it, that's a hard thing to do, but it does seem like you can kind of customize your character a little bit, or at least your
potentially
focus.
Might do that on my own time.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I think
don't know
would
either.
watch
We
it
will see.
Since it's a hot game, but
see.
Cool.
Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, that one does look pretty fun. It's
I don't know.
We'll have some news about that one in a minute, because it's had some rough bugs and stuff.
Gotcha.
And so I do think it's probably a great game, but I do think like a few more patches coming out is really going to help that one. Same thing happened with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It was like a mess at launch. The performance was really bad. But you just played that one a few weeks ago, Devin, and it was pretty solid now, right?
Yeah, it was a way fun game.
Yeah, I really loved that game when I played it, but I played it like 6 months after it came out, so they had taken care of all of that. Sometimes these companies, man, they release broken stuff, so it is usually helpful to at least wait for the first couple reviews to come out so that you can see, like, are they mentioning bugs or that the frame rate is 15 frames per second? Because if they are, then I'm not going to pre-order it. And in this digital age we live in, I can pre-order something like now, like immediately, right? So there's really no reason to give them your money in advance. So anyways, just thinking about that. For the board games I'm excited to try in the near future, I've got a bunch. I'm not going to name all of them because I have a ton of new games that I'm very pumped to play. This one is probably the one I'm most excited to try, that I'm going to hope to try in the next week. I got 2 games from this designer. His name is Vital Lacerda, and he makes some of the most complicated and heavy games in the world. But he has like a cult following because his games are supposed to be very thematic and excellent. This game I think is like number 48 all time on Board Game Geek, and the other one I got, On Mars, I think is right behind it at like 50. So I'm very excited to try this one. It's called Kanban EV. You run like a electric vehicle plant, and I think you're like one of the managers there. And so you like send your manager to different departments, to the assembly line and to board meetings and to testing and to research and development, all in order to get points and be the most productive of the managers at this electric vehicle plant. The pieces are amazing. This company is called Eagle Gryphon Games. Their games are pricey. Just as like a heads up, if you want to buy this game new and get the upgrade pack, you're looking at $150 for this game. But man, when you open that box and like see how well put together everything is, they have like a spot for everything in the insert. This is like a game I would not need to 3D print anything for, because it's already set up in such a great way. It has like, the trays have lids, so like nothing will get like jostle around if I decide I want to store it vertically as opposed to laying it down. Pieces are super high quality. So the quality level is like insanely high. Anyways, I'm very pumped to play this one. It's a 4.3 on the complexity scale. But I've heard that if you're going to jump into one of his games, this is the best one to jump into first. And then the other one, On Mars, that we'll talk about in future weeks, is a 4.7. So anyways, we got some bangers coming from Mr. Lacerda, who makes very heavy games. But man, these pieces are so cool. Like these wooden cars, and yeah, just a great like board game production. So I'm very excited to try that one. Let me know if you have played any of his games in the comments. I'd love to hear about that. And hopefully I'll have a good experience hopping in, because they're complex, but I think that once you like learn the rule set, you're like, oh, that makes sense, because if I actually was a manager here, I would need to do this and this before I do that. And that's what kind of they mean by like a game is thematic, that like the things I'm doing in the game match the theme pretty well. Like, oh, if I was actually a manager at this plant, I would probably need to like go to the assembly line and then do this and this in this order. And when you're playing the game, like those things kind of make sense. And that can be really helpful for teaching a game, because if like it makes sense just logically matching the theme of the game, then that can be quite a help in teaching. Anyways, pretty complex game regardless, but very excited for that one. Lots more on my list. We got ARCs coming up in the next month or two as well that I'm super pumped for. We'll talk about those later. So that is the what we're looking forward to section, and I just wanted to call those out. All right, Devin, some news, not too much, just a few things here before we kick the bucket on this episode. Weird way to say that, but whatever. We already talked about Black Myth Wukong, so we're going to go into I was going to start this section by saying we're going to talk about great news and then some bummers. And I stole the great news when we were talking about Black Myth selling 10 million. So we're going right to the bummers. First bummer, Concord came out on Friday, and no one was talking about it because everyone's talking about Black Myth Wukong. And it seems to have bombed in like a massive, massive way.
Oh,
even though I've seen some reviewers that have really liked it and think it's like really solid. But yeah, reviews are a little all over the place. Launch day on Steam, it only peaked at 697 players, which is abysmal.
What?
Again, shout out to Push Square. They had a couple comparison numbers here. They said there 2 other recent games that flopped were Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. On its launch day, it had 13,459. And Redfall, which got like a 4 out of 10, like on OpenCritic average, game from Xbox, it had 6,124 peak concurrents. So this had like 10 times fewer than that. Just a massive, massive underperformance. That doesn't include PlayStation. I'm sure that it maybe did a little better there, because I think people could pre-order it and it had like the betas and stuff. But it does seem like it's going to need a massive overhaul in some way in order to be successful. A lot of people think that they're going to eventually drop the $40 price tag, have it be free to play, which probably would have been the smart play from the beginning, especially when you're competing with games like Marvel Rivals, which people have generally are excited for, which is free to play and coming out, I think, in December. So they're kind of in a weird spot. This last week, I think when we went over Gamescom, there was that segment where Netflix was talking about their new TV show, Secret Level, and there was like the episode that's going to be about, can't remember what they were now, Spelunky and Mega Man, and probably like Master Chief and some other like characters in there. Concord is in there as like one of the characters that, so like Sony must have like really pushed, like, yeah, we got this big new thing. And this game is just bombed so hard. I don't know. It's just like a bombing on like a crazy level. And there's going to be some segments about it on this Netflix TV show. So maybe that will help it. Who knows? But I doubt it. I think this game is dead unless it goes free. I don't think you can come back from that. Because peak on launch day, I mean, you're not going to beat peak on launch day unless you do like a massive overhaul. Anyways, a bummer. I hate it when games fail. And I think a lot of people even like enjoyed the beta and said like, yeah, I think, it's not perfect, but it seems like a pretty solid, like Overwatch like shooter.
Yeah, so I had fun.
I know you. Yeah, I think you only got a couple hours before the beta closed, but I know that you kind of enjoyed it too. So kind of a bummer. Feel bad for the people that worked on the game. It came out last week that this game took they were working on it in some fashion for 8 years, which is like a humongous amount of time and money to. Yeah, and I think Sony bought this team over this game. I don't know what's going on. Sony had the huge success with Helldivers, which I think surprised them because it was like from a little team and Helldivers 1 wasn't that big. And then they had this big game, which it seems like they thought would be a big splash and totally bombed. So they're probably very confused. Anyways, that's been a big talking point. Next one, I think just happened today, but continuing the story that Bungie cannot buy a break because they can't. They've had really poor financials with Destiny the last few years. Lots of layoffs. I think they had a big one just a few weeks ago that we talked about. Now, the director of their next game, Marathon, was just fired. His name was Chris Barrett. And according to this reporting from Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, one of the most connected people in the video game industry, tweeted this and has a full article on Bloomberg, but it's behind a paywall and I didn't read the whole thing. But he said, quote, "In March, top Bungie employee and former Marathon director Chris Barrett suddenly left the company. Barrett was fired after an HR investigation found that he had behaved inappropriately with at least 8 female employees," Bloomberg has learned. Speaking to Bloomberg, multiple women who reported Barrett said he would text them frequently, make suggestive comments, and ask to play Truth or Dare. The women said his advances were unwanted and that they felt uncomfortable because he was significantly more powerful at Bungie. In a statement to Bloomberg News, Barrett said, quote, "He never understood my communications to be unwanted, and I would have never thought they could possibly have made anyone feel uncomfortable," end quote. I mean, there's a lot there that we don't know. Again, I don't know this guy. I obviously don't know any of the HR stuff at Bungie, but it seems pretty cut and dry that was bad. And losing your director when you're working on this game is also bad. I think Marathon looks very cool, at least visually. They haven't shown much other than it's an extraction shooter. It's kind of they had a series of first-person shooters, I think, a long time ago in the early 90s called Marathon. So it's kind of a reboot of that with this cool art style, extraction shooter. Bungie does some of the best shooting in the world. So lots of hype for this game whenever it's supposed to come out. But based on this news that the director was fired, and then this next tweet from Tom Henderson, who is also a very connected video game person. I think he founded Video Game Insider, which is a pretty big video game website. He tweeted, quote, "Marathon is so cooked. Not just this," talking about the director being fired, "but just everything I've heard," end quote. Didn't give any details there, but it just seems like Bungie's struggling. And I feel bad because, man, those first Halo games are so impactful and important to me, liking first-person shooters as a teenager. And I know Destiny was a big hit for a lot of people. I liked it for a minute, but it wasn't my long-term jam. I like extraction shooters, I think. And I like visually this sci-fi art style. So cool. So I hope they can pull it around. And, losing your director, it's rough. But they have a lot of great talent there. I don't imagine that they, just because of that one thing, would not be able to pull it around. But whatever Tom Henderson knows doesn't sound good either. I don't know. I'm pulling for Bungie, but they just continue to have rough things. Lots of layoffs, lots of bad things. A team getting kind of booted out of Bungie into Sony's ecosystem. And I don't know. Just a lot going on there. So those were a couple bummers. Sorry for the bummer news, but I don't make the news. Just say it. Next up, we've got I forgot to put a trailer in here, so sorry about that. I'll just go over this really quick since we already mentioned Star Wars Outlaws. Seems like it's been a pretty buggy mess at launch. There's been a lot of weird clips of people I don't know, there's stealth in the game and grabbing somebody and then teleporting across the map, or someone's face disappearing, or weird things. The I think worst experience that anyone has had are the players that paid $110 for the gold edition of the game. I think they got 3 days of early access. They have also been experiencing these bugs, obviously, and some of them have been messaging Ubisoft about the bugs, and they've been told that they need to update their game to the newest version and abandon their old save file to have a better experience. One of the emails back said, quote, "If you continue on a prior save, you will unfortunately face issues and progression blockers." Really rough. Play the game for 10, 20 hours and you're having a bug or something bad, and they say, well, you need to update your game and start all the way over. Oh, and thanks for your $110. That's rough. They did offer, it sounds like some of the people, like 100 Ubisoft Connect points. I don't know how valuable 100 of those points are. And a trinket in the game called a Trailblazer. But either way, yikes. It's been I think a pretty bummer of a launch there. Even though I have heard again from quite a few like people that I trust online that the game is like actually really fun, and that they just were lucky and happened to be one of the people that didn't have bugs, but a lot of people are. And again, just smart to wait a little bit, see if it's a mess. If it is, especially a big company like Ubisoft, they're going to patch the crap out of this game. It's a Star Wars game. Disney won't let them leave it in a bad state. They're Ubisoft, one of the biggest publishers in the world. They want their game to be like well regarded eventually. Just a bummer that they had to like, oh man, if it was going to be this buggy, they should have delayed it to February or March or something. Have it come out in like its best experience possible. It's hard. Games are always in like a changing state. But you have like Black Myth Wukong, which also is a tiny bit rough around the edges, but not like crazy bugs like this. I feel like it's generally been pretty smooth. So people are, I think, we're willing to give up or like to see like little bits of imperfection when a game first launches. But these are big bits, so we do need to like expect more from companies as well. So don't give them your money in advance. Don't pay for early access. Unless, I don't know. Yeah, just hold on to your money. You could pre-order that game 5 minutes before the preload period starts, and it would be exactly the same as if you did it 5 months early, right? Because games are digital nowadays. Unless you play physical, then you might have to wait for the next day for Amazon to deliver it to you, but still safer. Save your money. Okay, a couple other things before we get to the end of video game news. Konami had a quote here that everyone is pretty excited about because it has to do with Metal Gear Solid. They released the Master Collection that had Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 in it, I think late last year. Metal Gear Solid 5 is on PlayStation 4. The only one that's kind of not playable right now is Metal Gear Solid 4, which came out on the PlayStation 3. And you can't play PlayStation 3 games on a PlayStation 4 or 5 currently, right? So that game is kind of stranded and lost and can't really be played. They're doing some cool stuff at Konami. They, like I mentioned, had the Master Collection, and they're remaking Metal Gear Solid 3 as well in this Delta version that looks really cool. That's what we're looking at here on the screen. IGN was recently talking to the producer at Konami, and they asked if Metal Gear Solid 4 would be coming in like a second Master Collection because it's one that everybody wants to play. And what they said has everyone very excited. They said, quote, "Unfortunately, we can't really say too much at the moment with Volume 1 containing Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3, ... You can probably connect the dots." He continued, "Right now, we still are internally concerned about what we should be doing for the future of the series, so sorry we can't really reveal anything at the moment, but stay tuned." Seems pretty like cut and dry. That's what he's hinting at. ... You can probably connect the dots. Seems like a Master Collection Volume 2 will include games like 4 and maybe Peace Walker and Revengeance, I think, are some of the others that haven't been ported over. I have never played a Metal Gear Solid game. I've watched our cousin play the second one a couple decades ago and thought, wow, this looks like cool, but I don't know what's going on. I would love to like go back and play them. It's one of like my biggest gaming black holes. That's not the right term. Like holes in my opinion. So I'll probably play them at some point in the future. Okay, this next one, Devin, I thought would be very exciting for you. I know one of your favorite games you've played this year is Lies of P. And they're working on a sequel. I think that was already announced. It sounds like, and so I wanted to get your opinion on this, that the sequel will be moving towards much more open world than the first game. The company that's making the game and made the first game is called NeoWiz, and they have a job posting up for a field level designer. And according to Insider Gaming, quote, in the preferred qualification sections of that job listing, the developers have asked for, quote, inside a quote, extensive experience playing open world games. The list's key points also state that action creation, tool development, minigame development, and open world experience will be preferred, end quote. Well, it seems like that's what they're going for. I think it would be dumb. A lot of people have been saying like, oh, they're going full Elden Ring. I think it would be dumb for them to jump that open world. I think they should do it in tiers. Like, this first game kind of had some open areas, but was a bit linear. Maybe expand it just a little bit. Make it a little more open world than the first game. I think if they try to go full Elden Ring, it's going to be brutal. I feel like that's a hard thing to pull off. I don't know. What do you think, Devin? Do you want them to stay with the linear Liza P model, or would you like it to be more open?
We kind of covered this a little bit last week, but I am starting to really vibe with an open linear blueprint.
Yeah.
There's something about, there's a memory from each chapter to chapter in a linear game. You remember every area you went. If you thoroughly searched it, you can go, I know almost for a fact I've seen everything this section of the game has to offer. And things happen when they're supposed to happen. You can follow a story a little bit better in a more linear game. I think open world's a beautiful thing too. It's fun to search, but it's overwhelming a little bit for my old brain. I used to really like it. I'm like, I would almost just prefer the game does a little more for me.
Yeah.
To enjoy it. But they're just a little more epic and fluent when they're linear. And so I'm excited for the open world jump. I mean, it's exciting, but almost unnecessary in my opinion. But maybe I'll be wrong.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I hope that, we're reading a lot into just a single job posting, right? But this was going around to a lot of different websites. And so it might just mean that it's going to be slightly more open world. And I would be totally fine with that. That's cool. But yeah, if it's going to be like, oh, we want it to be big open world, you can play all the bosses in whatever order you want and stuff, that's a hard thing to pull off. Like you said, a linear game can seem more epic because they know where you're going to go next. And so they know, okay, we can tailor this story much more in a linear fashion. We're going to give you A, then B, then C, then D. Whereas if it's an open world game, it might go A, and then he ran around to D, and now what do we do? Because he's going back to B. And so you have to plan for a lot more like scenarios. Yeah, I don't know. I think it just takes even like games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which I think are like peak open world in my opinion. They kind of have like you have the linear section at the beginning that kind of explains the story, what's going on, and shows Ganondorf and that you need to stop him. Then there's like open world fun and craziness, and a few like dungeons that are linear inside that open world framework. And then the end like all comes back together anyways into like a linear fashion. So even like big games like that know that their story, for it to like really kick isn't a good word, to really hit like the high like emotional status, we need to bring you back into some linear state at some point, even if the game is open world. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm very excited. Liza P is super cool. I want to play it on a bigger screen on a PlayStation. I got my butt kicked on my Rogue Ally a little bit, but really liked it. I think it was really solid. It's a bit harder, in my opinion, than at least the first 90 minutes of Wukong. But I'm sure I'm about to be humbled by that game too, so we'll see. Anyways, Liza P, very excited for the sequel. Probably a couple years out, I would imagine. Maybe more if they're still hiring open world designers, but we'll see. Okay, last up, just a weird one. It's kind of an open secret. The PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be announced imminently, which almost certainly means that the regular PlayStation 5 is going to get a price cut just today. And this is the Japanese PlayStation blog. So It's kind of funny you translated it. It works though. The price for the PlayStation 5 is going up by $90 in Japan. Japan only. I think Sony knows if they did that in America, everyone would freak out. But yeah, it's going up by a lot. Both versions, the digital and the disk drive version, by about $90 US. A lot of people have been reading into this saying that, oh man, the Pro is going to be like $700 now if they're raising the price of this. And like, I guess maybe, but I think it's just, they have a quote here. They say, the recent challenging external environment, including the current fluctuations in the global economic situation and the impact it will have on our business, were the reason for the price hike. Basically, for quite a few months, I think even, I'm not an economist. Is that the word for a person that knows economics? The yen has like really tanked. And so the yen is like from a currency perspective, the value is really low. And so I think that's all that this is like the yen is in a weird place. And so to make as much money, they need to make more yen when they sell a PlayStation. It's kind of helping them when they are selling games in other countries. Because if the yen is really low in value, it means if I have $100 US, instead of getting, I have no idea what the actual conversion is, 10,000 yen. If the yen's low, I might get 20,000 yen for that $100. So if you're doing your business in another country, like Sony does a lot, they sell a lot of games in Europe and America, and PlayStation's there, then when they convert their money back to yen, it's really helpful to them because they get way more. And then if the price, the value does go back up, then hooray, anyways. But for selling in their own home country, I think that that's all that this is just kind of that situation in Japan. But there was a lot of talk about that today too, of like, oh man, the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be $800. I'm just like, there's no way, man. There's no way. I think it will maybe be 600. I don't know, 650 might even be. I don't know. But I think they're going to lower the price of the PlayStation 5 in America to 450, 400 maybe, and put the Pro at 550 or 6, maybe 500 if they're really being really aggressive. I'm not sure that they need to be that aggressive though, because the Xbox is like performing so poorly, so they'll probably not even push the price down as low as they could. But anyways, that was a big thing today. Funny to see a price go up. Well, not funny for our Japanese friends. I'm sure they don't want to pay $100 more for their consoles, but anyways. Okay, couple more weird things. Well, not weird. We got the random thing. GameStop announces GameStop Retro, which is weird because it seems like this is what they used to be. And then they went away from it and said, we're just going to be like a chill place for people to hang out and, I don't know, buy card games and like they had like a weird plan. You can come and buy your Fortnite V-Bucks at a GameStop. Now they've announced GameStop Retro. And the next picture, Devin, if you push over, is a list of all of like the consoles that they're going to carry and the games. So it's like, it is retro. They're going like hard on retro stuff. They're probably seeing that like, hey, the value of all of these things has gone up a lot, just like with Pokemon cards and stuff, like collector mentality. You can charge a lot for these. So they didn't really announce much more than that. I clicked on the link in this tweet and it just took you to their page and all it had was the retro logo and said search for a retro store. And the closest one to me was like 60 miles. So I don't think I will be checking it out. Again, I'm not really like a video game collector per se in this way, but I guess it's cool maybe if you like that. I feel like GameStop has been on the verge of dying for a long time, and I don't know that this is going to save them, but we'll see. Random thing I thought was worth shouting out. Next up, trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 finally came out, and Keanu Reeves is Shadow. I think that was announced, but I think his voice is in the trailer. No more Jim Carrey, I don't think. I didn't watch the whole trailer, but I didn't see him in the section that I watched. And I think he had announced that he was either retiring from acting or just not going to be in Sonic anymore. I can't remember what he announced a few years ago. Anyways, if you like Sonic, Devin, did you like those movies? I've seen them just because my kids have them on sometimes, and they're kind of fun, but kind of, I think, being the main word there.
Yeah, I like the hedgehogs. I think they're funny. They just like to like chill if they can and eat food. I'm like,
yeah,
understandable.
Mm-hmm. Get a chili dog. Yeah. All right. And then last up, cool thing. This is a crowdfunding corner for a video game item, and I want to give them a shout out. Genki makes awesome stuff. My capture card is a Genki capture card, and yeah, they make a lot of cool stuff. This project on Kickstarter has, I think, 3 different items on it. One of them is a bag, like a satchel, to carry like other stuff. So that one I'm not really going to talk about too much. The other 2 are kind of cool though. They have a partnership with 8BitDo, which is like an awesome company that makes retro controllers that work with like Switch and PC. And so this is that controller. It's called the Pocket Pro that they're coming out with. And it has a ton of features. I think it has a gyroscope. It has Hall effect sensors, so you can't get stick drift because they're magnets. It's basically like a Super Nintendo controller if you put analog sticks at the bottom. I think it has 2 triggers. I don't fully remember. I can't see from that picture there, but so I think it has like every button that you would need. Like the sticks are clickable. Scroll down just a little bit, Devin, so you can see this feature list here. Yeah, it has a long battery life. Fits really well in a backpack. Since you're like not worried about the joystick damage as much, like throwing it in your bag is like a little less worrisome. You can use it wirelessly or wired. It works with basically everything that isn't a PlayStation, just because PlayStation 5 requires that you use a DualSense. So yeah, I think this controller is super awesome. I can't remember what the price was, Devin. Can you scroll down on that right kind of scroll bar? That's the save point. We'll talk about that one in a minute. $42, and it looks like it should be $50 MSRP when it does come out, and they'll deliver in November, so I imagine early next year it will be available like in retail on Amazon and stuff. So cool controller. I just wanted to give it a shout out. I love a good controller, and this one's like very user friendly. Genki makes awesome stuff, and so does 8BitDo, and so that partnership is like super cool. The other item is called the Save State, and it's a cool thing too. It's basically like this little device that can go on the back of a Steam Deck or a Rogue Ally, or you can use it with a PC or an iPad or an iPhone as well. And it has a bunch. You basically get like a hard drive. Well, it'll be like a NVMe drive that can go inside of it, and then it can plug into the USB-C port on your Steam Deck or your Ally, and so you can boot games from it, and you could actually boot the opposite operating system. So on a Steam Deck, I could have Windows installed on this thing, and the thing just like magnets. It's either a magnet or a sticker of some sort, I'm not sure, to the back of the Steam Deck, and then just plugs into the USB port. So I could run Windows on a Steam Deck on a separate device. I don't have to uninstall SteamOS, or I could put SteamOS on a Rogue Ally on this cool device. It has its own storage. It's a very cool thing. So I just wanted to give both of those a shout out. Again, Genki makes really great stuff, and they're able to keep their prices like very reasonable. The capture card I have, I think it's called a Shadowcast 2 Pro. And man, for the feature set it has, it was like a fraction of the cost of like an Elgato, because the thing can record 4K at 60 frames and I think 1440 at 120 frames, and I think like the Elgato was like 3 times as much money. So they're just cool company. Just wanted to give this one a little shout out. That's it for the video game news this week. Last up, we got board games. We already went over the announcements for the new games from Inpatience and Korea board gaming company. So we've got crowdfunding corner here to round out our board game coverage for this episode of the podcast this week. Quite a few cool looking games, in my opinion. Wanted to start with this one. It's called A Nice Cuppa, and it's a game from Button Shy Games. They do little card games that fit in a wallet, and their games usually have 18 cards. This one is in their solo series that they've been doing with the same designer named Scott Alms, who's done quite a few games. Food Chain Island is listed there. I have that one, Unsurmountable, and Fishing Lessons. Food Chain Island is probably my favorite of those. It's really great. So yeah, it's like a fun series. Solo card games, and this is one as well, where you're trying to make the perfect cup of coffee to help you like get rid of your worries for the day. And I think like the front of each card is a part of the coffee, or like adding milk or your favorite mug, and the back of the card is a worry that you might be worrying about. There's like a mini expansion, and you can also order their other games in this this campaign. They super cool company. I really like Button Shy. This series is really fun. If you're in America, you can get any number of games from this campaign, and the shipping is $5. It's like, I mean, they're obviously much smaller than a big board game because it's a little wallet with cards in it. But I mean, if you got quite a few of them, you're getting the discount from the campaign, and the shipping is only $5. So I don't know. I'm thinking about this one because I really like this series, and there's a couple games in this series I missed out on, like the Royal Limited, that I want to look at and maybe get as well, so that I can kind of complete this series. Really cool series. If you like a good card game that you can play by yourself in 15 minutes, that's kind of what this series is trying to do. And I think I haven't played every single one, but the ones I have played are really fun. So cool one here. That's A Nice Cuppa from Button Shy Games. Ends on September 7th. All right, next up is one called 23 Knives. This is a social deduction kind of manipulation game where each player has a secret role, which I'm generally not a fan of this type of game. Games like Secret Hitler, and I forget the name of the other one that everyone knows, but similar idea here. In this game, you'll either be playing as someone trying to kill Hitler, trying to save him, or I think there is a third role that's kind of in the middle. But it has a bit more of a board game going on, where you'll be like moving around the different spots on the board, and then you do an action based on where you move, and that action might be to play some cards in front of yourself or play some cards in front of another person. And I think you play those cards face down, and they can be like a sword that would help assassinate Julius Caesar, or they can be something else that would like remove swords. And then at the end of the round or the game, there's like a pile of cards, and you flip it over, and if there is a certain number of swords, then the assassins trying to kill Julius Caesar win. But if it's under that number, then the people trying to prevent it win. And if it happens like in a certain scenario, then the third role wins. It's supposed to be pretty good. For that type of game, I like that there's a little more structure and rigidity like around the social deduction, because that's some of the games like, Secret Hitler and stuff are very like, okay, you've got 2 minutes, talk everyone, figure out who it is, and then just whoever is the loudest in the room can just kind of like defeat the entire game and rule the conversation. So I like it when they have a lot more structure than that. So this one seems to have been performing pretty well. It ends on the 6th of September. So that is 23 Knives. If you like games like that, seemed like a cool idea. Next up is Norsemen. And I think my favorite part of this one is the cover. I think it's a really cool, artsy cover of like a Norse Viking ship. But other than that, this seems like a fairly kind of like medium weight Euro game where you're trying to it looked like it had a little bit of push your luck, a little bit of deck building. You're putting workers out on cards as well to like go on voyages. also to make your deck better. It's kind of cool Viking art. I don't know that I love it, but it looks solid enough. I forgot which company is making this one, but probably doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence on this one. I don't think the board looks aesthetically amazing, but it's a pretty solid price. There's a lot in the box. It has some good previews from some reputable places, and it might be really good. I think I just need to do a little bit more research on it. It has a lot of different add-ons you can get too. You can get the base version, which has all the gameplay in it, I believe. Then a version that replaces cardboard with wood, which I like that. One that has a playmat. One that has metal coins and other pieces. One that has a really nice wooden insert. This would actually be a nice full circle moment. If you scroll down to that one, Devin, or on the left, you can click a place for everything, if you see those words. Up just a little bit in the rewards section. Up half the page. Yeah, click that one. And you can see that one has kind of those wooden insert pieces that I was mentioning earlier. Kind of pricey to get that version. I think it's 30 euros more than the base game for that kind of a organizational structure. But I was just saying at the beginning of the show, I really value that because you can get the game out and organized much better. But if you have a 3D printer, you can generally do that kind of stuff yourself. So yeah, that's the Norseman. Actually, it's just Norseman. Medium weight Euro game, it seems. Check that one out if the theme is exciting to you. I want to see the combination of the mechanisms. I'll probably read the rulebook to do a little more digging on that one. That one ends September 10th and is on GameFound, not on Kickstarter. All right, next up is Primates, and I thought this one, I don't know, it kind of looked unique. You're basically going through evolution and evolving some primates, and you can take different branching paths in how you evolve them. It's not a very complex game. It's seems like, again, kind of medium, maybe medium light, with some big fun primate meeples, and you'll move your meeple up this evolutionary tree that has branching paths, and you can choose which way you want to go. The cards look pretty cool. They're just kind of straightforward, but the price is pretty good. It's $39, it seems, for the game. It has a lot of cards. They're saying the MSRP should be $65. Yeah, I guess we'll just trust them for now, but I don't know. It again, it doesn't look amazing, but the cards look simple and pretty easy to understand what is on them, and it seems like a fairly fun system. Click back up on, or click, I guess we haven't gotten there yet, on the gameplay category there. Yeah, here is that tree where you move your meeple kind of along those branching paths, and I think when you do that, you'll take different cards from the kind of at the end of that path to change your deck up a little bit. So I don't know. It could be really fun. It's the mechanisms they list here are open drafting and management, application of dice for movement, contract fulfillment, endgame bonuses, push your luck, and it does have a preview here from Grant's GameRex, who I mentioned earlier. Really good channel, and the Game Boy Geek, who I like as well. So seems pretty solid. I'm excited to read a little bit more about it. Again, read the rulebook. Hard to read all of the 9 rulebooks before the show starts, but looks intriguing. That's Primates. It ends on the 11th of September. Okay, next up is Hive. This is a roll and write game. They call it a roll and color game in this here on the campaign. And I think it looks really, really cool. It's actually a little bit more complex than you would think. There's quite a bit going on, which I like in my roll and writes. I've played quite a few of these, and I have quite a few that are this print and play version where you get the files and you print them and either laminate them and use dry erase markers or use colored pencil or whatever. And this one is definitely a little bit heavier than some of the others, but I think it looks like a very fun puzzle. It has a solo mode as like the primary mode of play, which I don't mind in these because, I mean, it just reminds me of Yahtzee, but, more depth than something like that. But it also has a 2-player mode where you play on your sheet, they play on their sheet, and then there's a shared sheet in the middle with kind of these tug of war tracks where you're trying to do good on your board so that you can complete stuff on the middle board, and kind of win those tracks against your opponent. So cool idea. They have the solo mode and that 2-player mode. In this game, 6s are wild, but the other dice, you assign them a color. Doesn't matter what color, but you just have to choose a color at the beginning. So in the example they give here, 1s are red, 2s are blue, 3s green, 4s purple, 5 is yellow. And then when you roll the dice, you get to roll a number up to the population of your bee colony, and then you can assign them to different areas of the colony. You can assign one to repurpose or re-roll some of your other dice, assign them to the bakery, and they have like an explanation about how bees actually eat something called bee bread. And so that's why this place is called the bakery, to get food for your beehive so that your population can go up. You can, so there's a bunch of different like departments in this beehive. You can tend your eggs or tend larvae. You can harvest nectar. This looks like a really awesome roll and write game in my opinion. And it's kind of a puzzle here. When you gather the nectar, it says any bees that you didn't assign to the other actions all gather nectar, but they gather it in their color. So they show here a 1, 3, and a 5 all being drawn in, but they have to be drawn in different colors. So you're trying to group those colors of nectar together, because that will help give you some health points. And this game seems cool to me because a lot of solo games have just what you would call a beat your own high score mode. Like, yay, I got 50 points. Next time I play, I'll try to get more than 50. This one actually has a win and a lose state. If your health on your B track, which is tracked with a die at the top of the board, ever gets to 0, then you lose. Or if your or if your population ever gets to 0, or you don't have any bees left. And then there is a win condition. If you fill all 6 of your hives, survive a year, which is all 16 turns, or reach the end of the health point track. And so you can actually just win the game straight out. You're not just racing for points. I like a solo game that has a win and a lose state more than, yay, I got 50 points last time. I only got 48 this time. Did I win? I don't know. I don't know. I like a win and lose state in a solo game. It also has 6 different difficulty levels. So there's 2 different pledges. The $5 pledge is one of the sheets, the middle one, the like level 3 difficulty. The $9 pledge has all 6 difficulty levels and the 2-player version. Both versions it will be available in like the PDF sent to you pretty soon after the campaign ends. So they'll be delivering in September. So anyways, really cool looking roll and write in my opinion. This one is called Hive, a colorful beehive simulator. I like how you get to color it in. That is a good feeling in a roll and write game where like, ooh, I colored in a block. Feels good. And this one will just look cool because you're coloring in 5 different colors. So yeah, that is Hive, a colorful beehive simulator. It ends also on September 11th. All right, lots of games this week. Next up is Gnome Village. And this is a tile placement game, I believe. Trying to remember. But I think, yeah, if you hop out of that video just for a sec, the main thing, I think you flip over a tile on the board, and then I think you can place it in, or it looks like you flip a card actually, and that card might get you a tile that you can place in your own little gnome village. Then you can place little gnomes on the buildings in your village, and you get like income at certain points. Seems like a pretty simple like tile placement game, but I think it looks pretty solid. The artwork is all hand drawn. Some of these Kickstarter games, when you like click on them, you're like, wow, that game looks like it has cool like gameplay, but the art is definitely done by AI. And I hate that. A lot of these Kickstarters actually have a section on the left where like after shipping it will say use of AI, and they have to disclose that, yeah, we're using AI. So like I really like it when there's like a focus on, hey, all of this was handmade by like a person. So I thought the artwork looked really solid. The gameplay looks simple, but it looks pretty, puzzly in how you build your own little gnome village. I like the gnome meeples, and I think the different buildings do different things. And I don't remember the time frame, Devin. If you scroll up to the very top, it should tell us how many players and how long it takes to play. I was down just a tiny bit. I think I saw 3 big circles. Just a little bit more. There it is, 2 to 4 players, 30 to 60 minutes. And that's a fun time frame, in my opinion. That's a fairly like light game, just a step above something like King Domino. So I definitely want to check that one out again in more detail by reading the rule book. But looks pretty cool. I think will you look at the price on the base pledge? I want to remember what that is. 42 US dollars, it looks like, plus whatever shipping is. And what's the other pledge that has the $5 more, has like a mini expansion with some meeples and some extra tiles, looks like. So not a terrible price. Hopefully shipping is not too high. That is always a bear with Kickstarter. But all right, that's Gnome Village. It ends on September 12th. All right, we got some big ones coming up next. This is Everdell Duo. Everdell is a hugely popular game. I think it's number like 20 or something on Board Game Geek's top games of all time. I owned it for a while. I actually sold it. I thought it was a really solid game, but I didn't ever love it. I feel like I have other worker placement games that I like better, but I'm very much in the minority there. Everdell is a huge deal in the board game space. This is a new version of Everdell, much smaller, called Everdell Duo, and it's a 2-player game. You can either play against each other, just like normal, kind of Everdell. You're building out your own little city and drafting tiles, I think putting out little workers on the cards you want to take, and you have to spend resources to get them. Or you can play cooperatively, and they have a campaign book, and you can go through 15 chapters of this Everdell story, and each chapter is like a scenario where you play, and you probably have to like either beat some high score or accomplish something before you can move on to the next scenario. Kind of a cool idea. That might be more of like the way that I like Everdell as like a cooperative experience. I don't love cooperative games, but that seems exciting to me for some reason. I think that version here on this campaign is also only $19, which is like seems really low for, they're saying it should be $35 and will be MSRP. Yeah, 19 in this campaign, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. They have a bunch of extra stuff that you can order, which are just add-ons for the regular Everdell. So you can get oversized cards for the regular Everdell, which they look cool because they're bigger, but you can kind of see there they don't fit on the board quite as well. So they had to include some extra cards at the bottom there in order to show the portions of the board that are covered by the bigger cards. So I don't know. I don't think that would be a big deal for me, but very, very pretty from, I think it's Starling Games. they do a lot of stuff here. My neighbor has this big one, the complete collection on the bottom right that has Everdell and every expansion in that giant box. And yeah, like I said, Everdell's a big deal. This is probably the hottest game in crowdfunding right now. But I think that the new, and yeah, they even have plushies and like puzzles and all kinds of stuff. But I think that new 2-player duo version is the part that's most exciting to me. All right, that one ends on September 12th as well. Okay, 2 more. We've got Lords of Heaven here. This is a very unique game. You play during the Crusades, and you can play as either the Christian Crusaders, or there's 4 different factions: the Sunni Seljuks, the Orthodox Christian Byzantine Empire, and the Shia Fatimid Caliphate. Basically 4 different factions all trying to kind of win this war game. But there's a bit more going on. You place buildings out like between different sections on the board. You have secret information like with how big your army is behind your own little player shield and other stuff like that. So I think a couple of the videos I watched did describe it as a area majority war game on the table. So there's quite a bit of conflict. I think you're only allowed to do a certain number of conflict actions in an age, but you're kind of building up in order to do that, to do conflict and have the most influence in areas. I think it looks pretty cool. It's a very unique and interesting theme. I think my struggle with this one is just that I have arcs coming, and it's much more interesting to me and seems somewhat comparable, where you're playing cards from your hand in order to do something, to like get influence or tax a city or move some people and then fight. And so Arcs is just going to be that game for me for a while. So this one just doesn't have a place for David, but I think it does look pretty high quality. It is, it's on GameFound, and it's been very hot on Board Game Geek. So if you like, a war game that isn't a coin like crazy war game, I think this one plays in like 90 minutes. So a bit shorter of a time frame. Got some like political intrigue as well with the conflict. Cool theme, like I mentioned, in the Crusades. I think it looks really solid. It also has a tabletop simulator mod if you want to try it out beforehand. So yeah, I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool, and I think it has a pretty solid price for the base level pledge. I think it was 49 euros. And again, they have like versions with metal coins and playmats, and just like almost all of these do. But the deluxe edition with the expansion and the wooden meeples is 49. You can get, I think you have to wait to get the basic version in retail later. But I don't know, that's not a bad price for like a big kind of longer game like that, but it's not delivering until March of 2026. I just saw that while we're here. That's a long time. Wow. Anyway, so take that into account, I guess, as the last thing we mentioned there. But that is Lords of Heaven ends on September 12th. And it's on GameFound. And then last up, this is kind of like a much lighter kind of kids game. And when I saw this one first, just looking at that picture, Devin, I thought, oh boy, this is a game made by AI. Just because it kind of has that like glossy kind of look to it, but it's not. This is actually, I scrolled down and read about it, and it's like a very famous, like, I don't know if very famous is the right word, but a pretty well-known digital artist. So he does like art for, like, I didn't read much about him, but probably like TV shows, and he draws like on like an iPad and whatever else digital artists draw on, but like very, very impressive. So there's, it's all done by that dude. And so I thought it looked really cool from that way. And it's a more simple kind of like light-hearted family game you could probably play with kids pretty easily. You have these dogs, and you're trying to have them be the best at the dog show. And you do that by either disciplining them, training them, grooming them, And how that works is the dogs are these big cards with, I think, 4 holes in the bottom. Yeah. And then those actions that you do, like train them or groom them, are little tokens that slot into those holes. It seems like a pretty lucky game. You're rolling these dice to determine which things you get, like training or grooming, and then you can slot them into different to the different dogs. And then once someone has completed all 3 of their dogs, then the round is over and all dogs go to the dog show. And I think you like roll some more dice and play some cards at the dog show, and all trying to have the dog that wins best of show. Pretty simple, light game. Even has a poop card here, so I think they kind of know that they're not trying to be like a heavy game here. Scroll up to the top, Devin. I just want to see. Yeah, and there's that artist, the digital artist guy. He's an Emmy-nominated designer named Mark. This game does have a time frame and an age. 2 to 5 players. Or I'm really surprised they don't have a time frame here. I thought I saw like 20 minutes, but maybe I am misremembering. Could be. Maybe it's in key features. Inclusive gameplay, planet friendly. They've got like a review from an 11-year-old. Yeah, 20 to 30 minute games, 2 to 5 players for 8+. And I don't know, it's a pretty like unique looking. What is that? A hexagon shaped board with cards around it, and the dog cards are kind of unique with those slotting pieces. I thought it looked kind of cool, to be honest. Again, not like a game for game night with like my adult friends, but probably a fun fun family game. So anyways, that is all of the games we're going to look at this week. I think that was 9. Yeah, 9 games. Devin, you always get first dibs on pick of the week. What is your pick of the week for crowdfunding corner here?
For the price point, the interaction of the game, and a little more strategy than a nice cuppa, I'm going to go with Hive, a colorful beehive simulator.
Nice. Love it. That I did not think you were going to pick that one, to be honest.
Did you think I was going to pick Lords of Heaven?
I thought you were going to pick Everdell Duo, to be honest, but I could have seen it going anyway. To be honest, Hive is my pick of the week as well. I've already backed it.
Oh, really? Wow, look at me.
Yeah, I think it looks.
Chat.
Yep. Good pick. I think it looks awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes like get sucked into like these roll and write games. I'm like, wow, that one looks awesome, and then it's like mediocre. But that one I read more about that one than I usually do with others. Like I was like hooked to like the how to play section. I think it looks really, really good. So that is my pick too. I think a lot of the games looked really good this week. A nice cuppa, like you mentioned, probably an excellent solo card game. I think Gnome Village looks like a fun little tile placement game. Everdell is humongous. It's going to do very well for $19 too. I think that's like an excellent price point for that. I might check it out just based on that, to be honest. And Lords of Heaven looks cool. That March 2026 date though is like, what? Kind of crazy. And this one is like a family weight kind of silly game. I want to watch a video or read the rule book, but it seems fun. But yeah, Hive was mine as well. I'm surprised that you picked it. I thought I was going to be the one picking it. But hey, we got a double pick on Hive, a colorful beehive simulator. So anyways, that's going to do it for this week's crowdfunding corner. And last up, Devin. Somehow this is a long episode. I don't know what's going on. Rings of Power comes out in like, I think an hour and a half.
Oh, snap.
Because of that, I just wanted to ask you really quickly, what are your favorite Lord of the Rings based games that you have ever played? I pulled up some trailers here, or some gameplay segments, so you can play any of those that you want to, and I wanted to see if you could remember these games. These are the 5 I can remember.
Before pulling any up is one where you could basically play as Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli, and I think you would max out at level 20. That's like all I remember. And then the Shadow of Mordor games or Shadow of War. Other than that, I don't feel like I remember any.
Yeah, I think you're remembering a good one. You're either remembering this one, the Two Towers, which is very much that. You play as like Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and maybe Gandalf in certain parts. Yeah, this part of Helm's Deep, you're like kicking the ladders down, and I think you're right. You can like upgrade them to certain levels. And then this one had a sequel, Return of the King, which is almost the same game, just in the different part of the story. Yeah, very, very fun games. Those games ruled. I thought they were just the coolest things ever. Lord of the Rings is probably my favorite piece of like fantasy fiction, though, so I'm very biased towards these. Yeah, this part here, Sam's about to fight a bunch of spiders, which I did remember that part too, but there are a lot of parts of this game that I remember.
This is the one I remember.
Yeah, this one? Yeah. Yeah, I totally remember these so much. They were so fun. Just kind of a hack and slash, trying to not get hit and upgrade your character levels by doing well. And playing them in co-op was just a really fun time. So yeah, those were great. You mentioned Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, so we won't pull those up. I think those are also excellent. I didn't actually finish Shadow of War, but Shadow of Mordor I did. The one other Lord of the Rings video game I wanted to give a shout out to was The Third Age. It's actually a turn-based game. So it's a turn-based RPG. You have characters. I don't think they are characters from like the movie series. So this is like a separate story, but you do go to a lot of the same locations. And when you get in an encounter like this, yeah, it's a turn-based fight. And again, I don't really love turn-based games usually, but I think the theme of Lord of the Rings here pulled me through most of this game. I actually got to the Balrog and could not beat him. And I don't know how far in the game that is, but I think it's pretty far. It's like I fought that monster in front of Moria, that like big octopus dude, and lots of other bosses. I feel like I played this game for a lot of hours, but I couldn't beat the Balrog. So yeah, this one I remember a lot as well, and wanted to give it a shout out just for being a turn-based game that was able to pull me past the first 10 minutes. Just I think because it was Lord of the Rings focused. All right, and then in board games, I just wanted to mention a few. I have 2 Lord of the Rings board games currently. I have this one, Adventure to Mount Doom. I haven't tried it yet. I really need to. It's kind of a dice game, I believe. You're managing this row of cards at the bottom of the board as well, and rolling dice. And you have to get Frodo and the ring like all the way up to Mount Doom without losing. And there's quite a few different ways you can lose. And there's different legs of the journey. Like first you have to get to Rivendell, and then you have to get, I don't even remember. And at each different like leg in the journey, like you play with different cards and different dice, and each die is related to a different character. Like the orange one might be Merry or Pippin or something. It's a pretty simple game, but it's supposed to be fun in like a group or with kids, which is why I got it, to play it solo or with my kids. So that one, I think is supposed to be pretty fun. I do have it on the shelf behind me. And the other one I also haven't played. Look at me. It's Lord of the Rings, the Living Card Game. And this is a very complicated card game. I say very. It says 3.55 up there, which is, for me, is pretty complicated for a card game. It's a deck building game as well. So like they call it a living card game. So you build your own hero deck. You can choose a hero, and then you can choose like a bunch of different like what would they be called? Like other characters that you want to come with you, allies, I think. And so you build a deck of like 60 or whatever cards it is, and then you can play it co-op too. I think it's best actually at 2. Someone else makes their deck with their hero, who might have like a slightly different strategy. And then you go up against like a bunch of different scenarios. And you have to like tap your cards to use their special ability and put influence on them and damage, and make sure you don't get too much fear or whatever they call like that. influence of Sauron or whatever. It's a pretty complex card game. You're keeping track of stuff on dials. I have this set here, and I do want to play it. I just haven't been able to quite yet. That might be a fun thing to do for a video on the channel, Devin. We could play a scenario of Lord of the Rings, the living card game. But again, it's pretty complex, a bit hefty of a teach, but as far as these living card games go, this one and Arkham Horror, I think, are probably like two of the most famous ones. So yeah, anyways, I have that one. And then there's 3 games that I really want. The next one I've just been intimidated by. It's the, I think, number 8 best rated game of all time. Is it 8? Yeah, number 8. In war games, it's number 1 of all time. So this is a very long and complex war game where one player plays as the Free Peoples of Middle-earth and also controls the Fellowship, and the other player plays as Sauron and his minions. And I mean, it's a war game, but you're also like using cards to like manipulate things, and you're moving pieces around a map and doing fights with dice. And so the I think you can win in those by winning the war situation, or you can win or lose based on what happens to Frodo in the ring. And so if the ring gets to Mount Doom, obviously the Free Peoples win. It's supposed to be absolutely excellent. It's long. It's like a 4-hour game generally, I think, and very complex. I think the complexity ratio is over 4 out of 5. So there's a lot going on here, but it's one of the most well-regarded war games of all time. I've had my eye on it for a long time. My sister-in-law actually owns it, but it's still in shrink wrap. I don't know why she got it, but probably because she's a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than me. But I don't think she knows what she has there, because it's a board game she's never going to play. I know, it's a crazy one. And then the next 2, this one is Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation. It's been out of print forever, but luckily is getting a reprint very soon. We talked about it on the podcast just a few weeks ago. It's kind of like Stratego. You have a bunch of your pieces that only you can see, I believe, like the... I think I'm thinking of the right game here. You can see like who it is. Yeah. And the other player can't see which of your troops that is. And so you have the good guys and the bad guys. And so one of the good guys, again, is Frodo. So you're trying to sneak Frodo to the other side if you're the good guys, and the bad guys are trying to catch Frodo, or, you know, you've got Aragorn and stuff. You're also playing cards for like the battling and stuff. But that's kind of the main gist there, is the hidden information of, I know which troops I'm moving, but you don't know necessarily. There are certain points when you have to reveal them, but that one's getting what seems to be a very pretty, like, deluxe reprint. And I think that game was designed by, let's look, Devin, if you hit X out of this image and click on the name there, designed by, what do you know, the good Dr. Reiner Knizia. And
my man,
Eric Lang, who is also a big designer. And I don't know Christian Peterson, but give you a shout out here too. Anyways, well, click where it says re-implements, click on that at the top. In little text, it says re-implements Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation. Up more, yeah, right there. Click that one. Oh yeah, so it initially was made just by Reiner Knizia, and then those other 2 just helped with the kind of remake, and now it's getting even another remake. Yeah, Frodo. Is that Frodo? Either Frodo or Bilbo. He looks a little sad and scared, like he's yeah, this game's had a few versions, so hopefully the new one will be great. And then last up is Duel for Middle-earth, which has been pretty hyped. It's got beautiful artwork from Vincent Dutray, and it's a pretty simple card game. Basically, it's Seven Wonders Duel, where you are, I think, taking cards from this tableau of cards that are in kind of this triangle shape. You can't take a card if any part of it's covered. And then you're also playing cards. I haven't played Seven Wonders Duel, so I don't know for sure, but it's a Lord of the Rings version. And it's pretty anticipated. I think it comes out at the end of this year, if I don't remember incorrectly. That was a weird way of saying that. But anyways, lots of good Lord of the Rings stuff. I'm excited for Rings of Power Season 2.
Same.
I think there are like some reviews already up, but I'm just trying not to read anything because I feel like my opinion of it was so different than like the rest of the world's, where I thought it was very high quality. and pretty dang solid. Like, it's way better than The Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
So
and Galadriel
I really liked it. She's a little too intense for me sometimes, but hopefully she calms down a little bit. They did make her like very stoic, and like my brow is always furrowed.
Have you seen Saint Maud yet?
I haven't. Is that a good one?
Pretty intense, yeah. Pretty intense movie. Yeah, I'm excited as well, except for the fact that it seems like when things come out on HBO Max or Prime, you get one episode per week. They need to take notes from Netflix and just give us the whole thing.
Yeah, especially Prime. They can afford to do that. I think HBO does it because their like focus is hardcore on quality. And so they don't release as many shows. And so they really need it to stretch out because they need you to stay subscribed. And I'm sure Amazon wants the same thing, so that's probably why they do it too. But it's crazy. By doing that, it'll kind of be the talk of the town for like a couple months.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I don't know. Hopefully it is great. We'll see. Maybe I'll go watch it with Lacey right now. Yeah, it probably will be. Just based on like the production value of the last season. It was really good. So yeah. Anyways, Devin, that's going to do it for episode 22. It was kind of a freaking long one for some reason, so I appreciate you staying up late because I had to start late. Any fun plans for the rest of this week, Devin? Are you going to buy that longboard that you're hyped about, the Loaded? Or are they expensive?
I don't make enough money.
Are they expensive?
I would just buy the deck, and then I would maybe need bigger wheels, but I'd be in at least $220 just for the deck.
Wow, just for the deck? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it one of those that has like the extra set of wheels in the middle?
No, it's not. I'll have to send you a picture. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up too. Just called Loaded, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Well, don't crash. Don't get pulled over. Don't get arrested longboarding, breaking the law. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to check out the rest of the content we have here on Super Game Brothers and my Gaming Top Down YouTube channel where I do all my board game stuff. We got lots of stuff up there as well. If you want to support the show, make sure to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/supergamebrothers. You can get access to the show 3 days early, as well as many other perks. Devin streams on Twitch, Player4, Monday through Friday, and he also streams on our Super Game Brothers YouTube channel and on TikTok. He's everywhere. So make sure to check his streams out too if you want to see him beat Black Myth Wukong. He might have already beaten it before you hear this, to be honest. He's fast, but we'll see. Yeah, I think that's all the outro stuff. So let's get out of here. Have a good sleep, Devin, and we'll see you next week for episode 23.
Bye-bye.
Till then, everybody, see ya.